Call the council meeting to order tonight. Got a quorum present. Tonight will be led in invocation by Pastor Melanie Walslinger from Holy Cross Lutheran Church here in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So this time I ask everyone to please rise.
Let us pray. Like a river, divine Creator, you are at work flowing in and through our community, giving life and vitality. We thank you for your faithfulness. In gratitude and humility, we offer thanks for the unique gifts that you have given to this city in the richness and breadth of resources available. Mindful of the gifts you have given to our ancestors, to our forefathers and mothers, and to us, we gather in gratitude, hopeful to live out lives of generosity that can match the gracious gifts of your hand. We long to live generously, yet our hands, minds, and hearts are not so willing. Where there are wounds, worry, anxieties, or resentments that keep us from being generous with our thoughts and decisions, where there are scars that keep us from offering goodwill to our neighbors, where the desire to hoard natural resources threatens misuse of your precious creation, bring forth your reconciliation and healing. Bear in us a light that will shine, a hope that cannot be blotted out, a vision of community that is in the not distant and not fully realized future, that we may work together, bringing forth decisions through thoughtful discernment and wise counsel that reflect the generosity, compassion, love, and mercy you have first given us. Indeed, good Lord, you have given us great privileges and freedoms as your people living in this particular time and place. Remind us that with great privilege comes great responsibility. Create in our conversation room for gratitude and generosity we intend, that we may live your gifts to us, to gift the community of Sioux Falls, and thus be a blessing to the greater world of which we are a part. And all God's children said, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll get started here. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Litz.
Let's move. Is there a second?
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, seconded. Further comments? See no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega.
Yes. All members present voted. The consent agenda has been approved 8-0. Now is there a motion at this point to approve the regular agenda?
So moved,
Litz, is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown, seconded. Any other motions on the regular agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item 17, the CIP amendments, to the end of the agenda after item 24.
Okay, 17 after 24, that's a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Jameson seconded that motion. So that motion has been made and seconded. Further comments on the motion to move item 17 below item 24? See no further discussion. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
No.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 no. Item 17 has moved below 24. That motion has been approved. So now with that motion, we've got a motion been made and seconded to approve the regular agenda as amended. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve as amended will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
That motion has been approved 8-0 as amended. Now is the time that we set aside a period of 5 minutes for anyone that wishes to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda tonight. So at this time, anyone that wishes to address the council, we'd ask you to come forward, give your name and your address, and we'll try to keep track of the 5 minutes for you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Staley, and I reside at 1621 South Van Ness Avenue here in Sioux Falls. Recently, there has been discussion about spending $581,000 for new historic windows at the pavilion, and I believe a motion will be made tonight to fund this project. The rationale behind the spending of over $500,000 on these windows is that the pavilion is a historical gem in the midst of our city, and that taxpayers need to spend the money to maintain and dress up this facility. There has been a huge push from our business community and from city leaders to preserve and develop the historical parts of our inner city, and this, I believe, is very good. Tonight, I want to talk about another historical gem, located in a very visible area of our downtown, a gem that I know the taxpayers are interested in funding, and this gem is Nelson Field. The difference between Nelson Field and the pavilion is that Nelson Field has been dying a slow death at the hands of our city officials. I have been having discussions with coaches and parents who are actively using this field. Some of the comments I have heard are, the field is a great place for practices. It is very difficult to get into Harmon Park to have a practice because of the tight schedule. The field is the only centrally located baseball field in our city. It is a wonderful place for teener games, and it could be developed for amateur baseball with a little bit of work. Everyone agrees that this place needs a facelift. The field has been a low priority in our city for years. Even before the city tried to put a rec center there, it was neglected. The field was not watered this year, which made it very difficult to use. The grass is mangled and thick. The whole area needs to be regraded and resodded. The dugouts are in poor condition, the mound needs to be replaced, and the nets and the cages are weathered. Everyone that I visited with thinks keeping and fixing up this historic ball field in the center of our community is more important than adding $581,000 windows to the pavilion. This is a ballpark that is needed, used, and valued by the citizens of Sioux Falls. It is our hope that the Parks Department will include funding in the future to bring this historical gem back to its deserved brilliance in the center of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Others that wish to address the council at this time?
Good evening, Mayor Munson and council members. I am Kay Davis. I live at 6112 South Avalon Avenue, Sioux Falls. And you may wonder why I'm interested in Nelson Field. I was raised on the west side of town. I am going to take a different approach. I would like to see Nelson Field left because of the nostalgia. My husband grew up on the east side of town, most of his life in South Dakota Children's Home. And that's where all of his happy memories were from. He passed away last month. And I would love to have Nelson Field there by the swimming pool with picnic tables so we could continue bringing Grandpa's memory back to the great-grandkids by going down there, having a ball, going to the ball field, playing ball as a family, doing the things that he used to do and using it as families. And I think the people on the east side of town would love to continue to do that, to have it be a place to go for a picnic, to have family ball games, to bring it back. Bob Litz, I've known for years, he's a North Ender, and he would die for something in the North End that we wanted to keep. I know that. I turned into a North Ender as an adult, and I feel like that. And I know how Dee feels about the windows. But right now, we are considering the pool, and we need to consider Nelson Field. And I think it's really important that each and every one of you take it into consideration about what this ball field adds to Nelson Park. And that's what the name of the park is really all about, Nelson Ball Field. And please, please leave that ball field there for the people to use, for the teams to use, but for the nostalgia there. McKinnon Park, you wouldn't take that pit out, that indented part in the yard that has all the flowers, beautiful flowers in it. That's what's made McKinnon Park for years. Please leave the ball field at Nelson Park.
Thank you, Kay. Others wish to address council for a period of 5 minutes?
Hi, I'm Joan Giebink, and I live at 1613 South 2nd Avenue. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I would also like to talk about the plans for Nelson Field and the new Drake Springs. My husband, Bob Meyer, and I both grew up in Sioux Falls. Bob grew up on East 4th Street, just off Cliff Avenue, and spent his summers riding his bike to Nelson Field to play pickup ball games every weekday morning. By the time the boys were done, the pool was open. And the boys watched Legion ball on the field every evening there was a game and got paid for shagging the balls. Summers were idyllic in those days. Bob said it was a shame when the city took out the ice skating rink that lay between the field and the pool. It even had hockey boards at one end. Well, I grew up by Park Ridge and actually have one memory of before Park Ridge was built. And Spellerberg, of course, wasn't there. But I traveled to Drake Springs to swim because that's where all my friends swam. And we enjoyed the lily pond and the flowers, which unfortunately is no longer there. Our kids have also grown up here and have taken advantage of all the wonderful sports facilities that the city offers: soccer, tennis, ice skating, swimming, and softball. As I see new facilities being created further and further from downtown, I see less and less available to the kids living in Central Sioux Falls. When we were young, most mothers didn't work, and I was lucky my mother could drive us where we needed to go. Bob's family had only one car, and his mother didn't drive. He biked everywhere in that central neighborhood, which I'm sure a lot of the kids do today. I've seen little convincing information in the news as to why we have to lose Nelson Field to build a new pool. I'm not sure there's been any reason other than that the concrete cracks as to why they can't build it where it is today. The location worked for the pool since the 30s, and that's the pool I remember, and the current pool, I think, was built in the 70s. What's interesting is Westward Ho is still using the same concrete pool that was built in the 50s when the club began. It gets cracked, and the cracks get repaired. And the contractor I know once told me there's only two things about concrete you can be sure of: it gets hard and it cracks. I'd like to see a detailed explanation in the Argus from the planners explaining the necessity of moving the pool from its current location. I'd also like to see a current layout, and it's probably been in there and I probably missed it. That would be me. I hope the mayor and the council consider every possible plan that could save Nelson Field. In my mind, there isn't ever a good reason to take away any existing city recreational facility unless it's to replace it with a more updated one. I believe there probably is a solution that would satisfy everyone. Maybe the street that passes between the pool and the field can be redesigned to provide more building space. I really hope to see something in the Argus that will try to answer these questions. Thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Others wish to address council for a period of 5 minutes at this time? One thing I want to remind all you people, we're going to have some public hearings on this, so you all have a chance to voice your opinions of what we're going to do because we're in that process now. So, but go ahead. Give your name and address, please.
My name is Matt Tramp. I live at 1230 East 9th Street in Sioux Falls. I live a block away from Nelson Field, and I'm going to be talking about Nelson Field. I live a block away from Nelson Field, and it's pretty much been my second home since ever I could remember. From 3rd grade till 7th grade, I went down there. From 3rd grade, I didn't play with the Cougars when they had practice down there. They're now moved to Harmonin, but when they had practice down there, I went down there, talked to all the players, talked to the coaches, and baseball became my life. From 4th grade to 7th grade, I was involved in practice. I got to take ground balls, take some swings, and play with all the players, and that was probably the best time of my life. Right now, I've spent the last week and a half since our season's been over, practicing down there every day from 1 o'clock till another team comes or till we get tired, me and my buddies. I think it'd be a shame to see Nelson Field go because there's not one day that I don't drive by that place and see that. And I will never take advantage of the fact that there's a baseball field by me. I mean, it's an amazing place. I've grown up there, and a lot of my friends and my brothers and my sisters have grown up there. The thing about Nelson that is original and always will be nice is there isn't a sign-up time to go practice there. It is a real public park. You show up and you play, and I know at Harmonin we've gone out there a couple of times to try to get on the field, and it would be open and no one would be there, but we'd get kicked off by the city members because we weren't signed up for the fields. And that's never one time happened to me at Nelson Field through the past 6 years, and that would really be a shame to see something go like that, and many kids will take advantage of the field if it were repaired and kept there. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Others wish to address the council for a period of 5 minutes at this time? Seeing no one is coming forward, we'll move into the regular agenda, item number 11.
Item number 11 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city to provide the firefighters' pension fund with a retirement pension option that is substantially similar to an option currently available to the employees' retirement system.
Bill O'Toole from the Human Resources Department. This agenda item is an ordinance proposal that is coming to you from the Firefighters Pension Fund Board of Trustees. And basically what the language provides for is that in the event a retiree who has elected a joint and survivor form of payment and his or her named beneficiary were to both pass away before they had received an amount equal to the accumulated contributions and interest that they've received in the fund, could be given to an eligible qualified survivor. Right now, the plan does not have that as a provision, and if that were to occur, any amounts would stay within the plan. Because that does represent a benefit change, the pension board had to go through their identified procedures, which would include an actuary study to determine the cost of this benefit change and a vote of the membership. The actuary did do an actuarial study and basically determined that the likelihood of that event occurring was so remote there wouldn't be any cost impact to the plan. And the board also held an election of the members back in May of this year, and those members that did vote overwhelmingly supported this proposal. And I'd be happy to answer your questions that you have.
Questions of Bill on item number 11? Others that wish to address the council on item number 11? Is there a motion by the council to approve item 11?
I so move. Knutson.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Benninga.
Benninga seconded. Further comments on the motion to approve item number 11? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present voted. Item 11 is approved 8-0. Item 12.
Item 12 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations.
Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance. This is a semi-annual, essentially cleanup of the CIP of some numbers that we need there. The total amount that is being requested is $3,591,000. $259,000 of that is actually a supplemental appropriation that will come out of unreserved fund balance. And we reviewed this all before, so if there's any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Questions of Gene on item number 12? Others that wish to address the council on item number 12? Is there a motion by the council?
We have, Mayor Munson, we have two amendments for this item. Or, excuse me, two amendments to this item. We had an amendment brought forward, a motion to amend the main motion by Councilmember Litz to provide supplemental appropriations for library, sales use tax fund, bond funds in the amount of $207,500.
Can we get a
I would like
motion
to
approved, and then we'll come back to those? Can you want
Mr. Chairman, I'd move for approval.
Okay, Kavanaugh moves, seconded by Brown. Okay, now, do you want to make, is there a motion to amend?
The motion was by Mr. Litz to amend.
I'll second the
And you
motion
second.
to
Okay,
amend.
we've got a motion made and seconded to amend. Everybody understand that motion? Is there further discussion on that motion to amend?
Yes. Can we have some justification for that money, the additional money?
The $207,000, approximately $30,000 of that is for acquisition of a right-of-way running along the northern edge of the 300 building. And the $175,000, $176,000 are for the acquisition of an abandoned right-of-way, that being 7th Avenue.
7th Street.
7th Street, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
on the north side. So. Further questions? Got a motion here that to amend. Further questions? I see no further questions. All in favor of the motion to amend will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga.
All members present have voted. That amendment has been approved 8-0. Is there further amendments?
We have one more amendment, Mayor Munson. A motion to amend the main motion by Councilmember Staggers to provide supplemental appropriations, Public Works Storm Drainage Sales Use Tax Fund, unreserved fund balance $150,000, from Planning Building Services Sales Use Tax Fund, unreserved fund balance $150,000.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Further comments on the motion to amend? Yes.
Yes, let me just briefly explain this a little bit. First of all, on the screen, we have down $100,000 right now is being appropriated for the facade, historical facade for the security bank building. And then the next one is another $50,000 for artwork to be on Phillips to the Falls. You can see the star in the left picture there. That's where it's supposed to be at. Then on the right picture, you can see in brackets there where the artwork is supposed to be at. Now that's $50,000. I think there's a project more worthy than these two that I've just mentioned, and that's dealing with the flooding at 23rd and West. This flooding you see here took place April 2007. With a little bit over an inch of rain, we have quite a bit of flooding there. And there's also another picture indicating the flooding from June 2nd, 2007. We have this car driving down west after 1/2 inch of rain. So like we did with the rest of central Sioux Falls after the storms of 2004, we spent $40 million correcting the situation, but here is an area that we missed. And it is in the capital improvement program right now for 2011-2012. And the goal of this amendment is to take at least $150,000 and to begin this project, at least the engineering and set up work for 2007.
Comments? Mark, do you want to address that?
Good evening. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Just as an addition to what we spoke of today at the informational meeting, and to give you an update of where Public Works is at this current project, we have always identified this as a future improvement. We certainly know that there is a ponding issue in this intersection. One of the things we've just recently did was we have initiated preliminary design, and once given notice to proceed, we expect about 2 months of work, and we will have the preliminary design layout and a good cost estimate that we can then take and bring back a funding solution for this project. And so at this point, the design for the preliminary analysis and design work is funded, and by mid-November, we will have tangible cost estimates and the intake and pipe routing to bring back to you and actually have a plan of how we would fund this.
Questions, Kevin?
Thanks for the information, Mark. I may not agree with, the means of financing that Councilor Staggers is proposing here, but I am concerned about how this gets done and how soon it gets done. Mm-hmm. As he indicated, it's in the current capital improvements plan for 2010 and 2011. What you're telling us is that there's a renewed interest in moving this up, and that you're giving us assurances that this will get fixed. How much more can you assure us, Mark? I want the neighborhood and I want this council to be comfortable in knowing that regardless of how we pay for this, that this situation will be alleviated as soon as we possibly can.
Well, we've certainly and I've personally talked to members of the neighborhood. It's currently in the 11 and 12 program of the new CIP. Again, we like those funds to stand on their own if possible. We know with the amount of work that was accomplished with after the rain events of 2004, several projects needed just like this one were deferred and now are lined up to be funded and improved. And so, we certainly know the validity of this project. We know that there's a piping and an intake solution that we'll bring forward to you. And so, from our aspect is when we know the true cost, we'll bring you an amendment of how do we fund it. The key is, though, this is not the only ponding problem that we have. And so one of the things that we directly go to is, has there been inundation in sewers that have been overtaken? This area hasn't had those things happen. We have had ponding issues just like this shows. I've not been made aware of any issues that recently came out of the 2.5 inches of rain that we just got. But one thing I've certainly told Judy Lawson is that we have initiated the design efforts, and once we start, we'll see it through.
Further questions? Okay, Bob Jameson.
Mark, this afternoon you indicated that the change in assessments for storm drainage would add some dollars to your storm drainage fund. Are you convinced that there will be adequate dollars in that to do this project as soon as it's designed?
Well, one of the things that we've committed to the neighborhood is that we would make every effort to move it up. And when I talk about every effort, again, currently we slated it for design in 2011 and construction in 12. I have a very good feeling that we'll be able to bring this forward in either 8, 9, or 10. But the key is getting that tangible cost estimate of what the improvements need to be and how they sync. You did support us on raising the storm drainage fee and the RDC and the DSCR. Storm drainage fee for all members of the community went up 35% that we'll start to see in 2008. And then also the development community with new land platting, seen an 80% increase in the RDC and DSCR fees. So there is more dollars coming into there. And then our commitment, just like our other utility funds are, we will analyze those from a revenue and expense standpoint each and every year so we can get to a point where we have a solid CIP program for storm drainage and also a solid revenue stream to actually address those issues.
And I think you also indicated that there was adequate dollars available this year to do the engineering work.
There was, and we're probably within just a few days of actually giving the notice to proceed to that engineer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Further questions? Not, we've got a motion to Kermit.
Yeah, I'd just like to emphasize that I realize the Public Works Department is going to be doing this in the future. But this amendment that I have is just simply designed to say very clearly the City Council is making policy here. We want this done immediately. Because the picture we have on the screen up there, once again, this is 1/2 inch of rain, and this took place June 2nd, 2007. We want to get this done right away to give assurances to the neighborhood.
I agree with Dr. Staggers that this needs to be done right away, and I believe that Public Works has this on the front burner, so to speak. Like I say, we've already, or like Mark said, we've already moved the engineering up from 2008 to it's happening here very soon. I met with engineers out there probably a month ago. We went over a number of scenarios, and I'd also like to remind the general public that in 2004, when this project first came around, there was a number of changes involving Augustana College and the amount of money that they wanted to do that project down there. So things changed, and it involved Stellerberg Park, and it also involved Edison. And this would have been at the tail end of these projects anyway, and being Edison is just being finished up right now. This thing is right on time. If we proceed on like we're going to, and I have a lot of confidence in Mark's ability to find this money out of the proper pots, and I think being it's been made a public forum here that it's going to happen.
Further comments? I've got a motion to amend. Steiger's motion. See no further questions, comments. We'll have a vote on the motion to amend. All in favor of the motion to amend, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Council members Brown,
No.
Councilmember Costello.
No.
Councilmember Jameson.
No.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
No.
Councilmember Knutson.
No.
Councilmember Litz. No. Councilmember Staggers.
Yes.
Councilmember Benega.
No.
That motion failed, 7 no, 1 yes, so we're back to the motion to amend made by Litz and Knutson, and there's been a motion to approve the as amended. Further questions? No further questions, so all in
Mr.
favor
Mayor.
of the motion to approve item 12
Mr.
as
Mayor.
amended?
I have a question for Mike. And maybe Erica. On the facade easement that we're talking about for downtown, have we ever granted facade easement under the program, purchased facade easements to projects that have been completed or that were under construction?
Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. Just to help understand, the public understand what we're discussing here tonight, two of the projects that are being requested for this amendment by Planning and Building Services include $100,000 for an additional facade easement program that would get underway this year, and then $50,000 for the visual artwork up on North Phillips Avenue. Earlier this year, when we brought to the City Council the Uptown at Falls Park proposal, the first phase of the sale of that land was over $500,000, and at that time we presented a list of proposed projects within the downtown area that we thought would be appropriate to utilize some of that funding. The direction from the council was to take those back through the CIP committee that would be suggested for this year. And so the two that are being presented to you tonight have gone through the CIP committee. The facade easement program would be used for the Security Bank Building project, which is a proposed redevelopment project. And that actually was submitted earlier this year to the Sioux Falls Board of Preservation with a recommendation for approval. At the time, we had more projects and we had funding, and at the same time, the developers were not quite ready to get that project underway. So now there's a desire to bring that forward to you for the facade easement program. And yes, the project is underway, and we have done that in the past, and I'll have Erica explain a little bit more about how does a facade easement project get approved and how does the funding for the actual reimbursement get approved.
To answer your question in short, yes, we do. We state that basically if the property owner wants to move forward with reconstruction of their property, they can do so. They just don't touch the facade until after they're awarded. So basically they come to the City Planning Department, they provide us with an application. That application is then reviewed by the Board of Historic Preservation as well as city staff, and then the final recommendations or awards are made by Mayor Munson. And that's how we kind of go through that process.
So we in the historically, or at least in the past, have actually granted facade easements to projects that were already under construction. Have we ever done it for easements that have already been completed?
No.
This project was ranked number 2, I believe, a year ago. Was that correct?
This year, when the applicant made an application to the Board of Preservation, the City Planning Department, the Board of Preservation reviewed those applications. They reviewed 8 applications, and they ranked them from 1 to 8. This project was ranked as the second qualifying project due to its historical significance.
But the developer wasn't ready in time to, or why again why were they not included, being ranked so high?
Basically what happens is in the past, since this program was conceived, I guess, in 2001, they've received, just a handful, maybe 2 or 3 applications a year. The past 2 years, we've received 8 or 9 applications. We're not able to fund all of those projects due to that. And basically what happens is that we have to make a decision, on a number of variables. Sometimes it's timing of the project, sometimes it's historical significance, sometimes it's the overall cost of the project, sometimes it's due to whether or not the building is vacant, whether it's stable. There are a number of factors that go into determining which projects are funded and which aren't. In this case, for instance, We recommended it, as well as the Board of Preservation, that this project was, yes, very important to the city, but at the time we didn't realize that it was going to move forward as quickly as it did. This specific applicant, along with his ownership group, has owned this property since April of 2005, but it's a very large project. And as you saw on the earlier handout that was on the screen, the overall project total cost is around $5.9 million. That's a very large project to put together, and as I understand it, and the applicant is actually here tonight to answer any questions as well, but as I understand it, this basically came down to a lot of different investors and scenarios being put together rather quickly. They had to fill space within the building, and that included both residential and office space, and they are working on that right now, which led them to gain more financial stability and therefore proceed with the project much quicker than we had anticipated it to proceed. We're trying to do our best. As I stated last week, all of the projects within this year's applications and last year's applications were eligible for this program. And we all think that, I guess, that they're worthy of funding. We do have Board of Preservation members here tonight as well to attest to that. But I would just encourage you to consider that we're trying to do our best in determining which projects get funded and which ones don't. But a lot of times it comes down to a number of variables that people don't necessarily know about.
Erica, do you know, in the past, having reviewed this project, was the developer ever led to believe that they would be getting a facade easement, even though maybe they didn't get it under the original $150,000 we set aside in the 2007 budget? Were there any assurances given to them that they might get supplemental, there might be a supplemental appropriations to provide facade easement money for them?
No, absolutely not. We don't assure anyone that they will be able to get a facade easement. We encourage, and actually this applicant applied, as I stated, in 2006. He did not receive funding in 2006, again, due to the number of projects that we had apply and those variables that I spoke about. So we encouraged him to apply again. We can't guarantee someone that they're going to receive funding, so we don't do that.
So in essence, we have a private developer who applied for a program from the city, even though very well, a very qualified project, was not awarded any funding, then decided to continue on with the project and continue on with the development and make, hundreds of thousands of dollars of improvements so far, and now comes back retroactively when the project is already begun. And I guess I would suggest that for taxpayer dollars, that I don't know that that's appropriate. We set aside $150,000 a year to facade easements, and here we're expanding the program beyond, I think, what the original scope is, because the investment is already being made. That improvement is being done. And now to go on beyond what we've allocated for it, to spend $100,000 of taxpayer monies that could be used for other items, whether, that could be, we can determine that later. But I just am not comfortable with the notion that the project has begun. It reminds me of a TIF that we did recently, where the developer came in and demanded that if we didn't get his TIF, that the project wasn't going to happen, and then the steel shows up the next week. And that's a little disingenuous, because obviously that steel was ordered long ahead of time. And this is the same thing. This project is underway. It's I wouldn't say halfway, but it's clearly begun a major portion of it.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I guess I don't think that you can personally look at this program as just being economic benefit to the city. And yes, that's one of the things that we try to promote with this program, is it does, create economic potential within the downtown area, which is obviously what all of us want. But it's also historic preservation. And if you look at it from that perspective, we're investing on that aspect too. We're investing by purchasing an easement on the facade of this building, which will ensure that whoever the property owner is in the future will not be able to do anything that's not historically accurate to it. Therefore, I guess from my perspective, it doesn't matter if the project's already started, as long as they haven't touched that facade, and as long as they meet all of the requirements that we set forth in the future as to what they can do and what they can't do with it.
Your point is well taken. And I guess that's where I draw the distinction, is that the project has already started. Because if we're going to start applying these to projects that are under construction, then the next step is projects that are already completed, and there's a whole host of them. We certainly know that there is a long list of historical facade easements that we can purchase, and there's a lot of opportunities there. this project has already begun. It's beyond the planning. It's beyond the considering phase. The money's invested. This is going to happen either way.
Bob Jameson?
I would think that one of the things that we need to consider about facade easements is this does not affect the project. This affects what we want to keep in downtown Sioux Falls as a facade for indefinitely. In other words, the project can be done, but he can do anything he wants with that exterior of that building unless we buy a facade easement to preserve it. And I think that's the point I think we need to keep in mind, that this maintains the historical significance of that building, and we are ensuring that that will happen.
If I could just respond to that, Bob, the first objective under our facade easement program off the internet is to stimulate new investment.
I understand that, fully understand that, but that's not necessarily the only reason for having it. That may be one of the objectives, but not the only one.
Kermit?
Yeah, I appreciate Councilmember Costello's remarks. I wish we could vote on the amendment again. But having said that, Eric, I have a number of questions. First of all, since this program was initiated under Steve Matley, how much taxpayer money has been spent on this?
You know, I'm not positive on that. I could check for you, but it originally was funded in 2001. Some years, not all of the funds were spent because there weren't enough applications. So I can't tell you that right off, but I could provide you with that later.
Thank you. Then also, too, on this facade for the Security Bank building, I think the original figure was like $120,000 to maintain the facade, and I guess we have a policy of a max of $100,000. Can you explain how we come up with these numbers for the facade? Does the applicant provide numbers and documentation, or can you go into some of those details?
Sure. Within each application, the applicant then provides us with a list of improvements that they intend on making to that specific facade, as well as the entire building usually. They break it down in this case, for instance, by the windows, restoration, cleaning of the facade. This facade, for instance, is a stone, so it needs to be cleaned. If you've driven by it or have seen any of the photos that I provided, it's really dirty. It's nothing different than the Orpheum when we had to clean that. So there are a number of different figures that are provided to us. The applicant then proceeds, if he's awarded or he or she is awarded, they proceed with the project. Then upon commencement, or whenever the project is finished, they come back before the Board of Preservation. They indicate to the board that each of the items contained within the scope of work were finished and completed how they said that they were going to be. The Board of Preservation then reviews and approves that project, and then the applicant provides us with documentation from their contractor stating that each of those items within the scope of work, whatever the cost may be, they provide that information to us that they were completed, they're paid for, and then we go through the reimbursement process and they fill out the historic facade easement application, which is a legal document that's filed at the county ensuring that we have an easement on the property.
Okay. And then thank you very much for that information. And then last question I have is in regard to the $50,000 artwork on Phillips to the Falls. I guess one thing I'm concerned about is I don't think we've ever seen any pictures of what this artwork is. And also, too, I have safety questions about the location. It's on a curve. Can you say something about that?
Sure. And I should also mention that we have members of the Visual Arts Commission in the audience as well, if you have questions for them on this project. But the reason we don't show any pictures of the artwork itself is because that would be somewhat preliminary, and we would be actually telling the applicant or whomever responds to this call of art what we would want. And I, for one, am not an artist. Therefore, I can't tell someone exactly what I want, and I don't think that that would be necessarily fair. The Visual Arts Commission has approached this as being the North Phillips Avenue Visual Arts Wall, with the theme as a potential diversity wall of some sort. I can't really say anything else about that, if it would be stone, tile, what have you. We haven't really approached it, I guess, from any safety concerns on that corner. If you remember where this is, it's on North Phillips Avenue. It's actually block 4 of the Phillips to the Falls property that we purchased from the railroad when it was abandoned, and it was part of the Phillips to the Falls project. The thought process behind this was that by purchasing or doing a call for art and actually locating art here, we would be able to ensure that this property was used for some sort of public purpose. It would kind of go along with all of the private development that's actually occurring in the area. If you remember the Uptown at Falls Park project, we're assuming will be around $160 million private investment by the developers, of which we assumed that it would be also nice to put some public investment into this area with a call for art, which coincides and is consistent with our 2015 adopted downtown plan that calls for outdoor public art, as well as keeping up the aesthetic appeal of downtown.
But the land this artwork is going to be on does belong to the city, doesn't it?
Correct.
So, yeah, we didn't have to worry about putting anything there because it already belongs to the city.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wish that you would take maybe a closer look at the safety issue, because you're going around a curve and then you're about ready to go onto the railroad track, and diverting a person's attention could be a safety issue.
Kevin? I have a question for Mike. Mike, as I recall, the purchase price for the first half payment, or for that uptown parcel, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 560, 570?
Somewhere in that range, yes. Yes.
What we're asked to approve tonight are amendments totaling about 260 in unreserved fund balance. What about the rest of this? Another 300,000?
That would go back into the sales tax fund and then could be reallocated in the future for other projects.
But there weren't enough, well, obviously there were enough. There weren't projects that the CIP committee deemed worthy enough to bring forward tonight?
Not for 2007.
Right.
Because tonight we're just asking to be amending 2007. As you know, we go through the amendment process twice a year. So next February, March, the CIP committee will and all the departments will take another look at the status of projects for 08 through 12. We'll look at the sales tax fund, and then at that time there would be another opportunity to either add projects or amend projects.
Thanks.
Mike, could you give us an idea what the other projects were that the CIP committee entertained along with this?
As far as new projects for this year?
Correct, for 2007. Well, I mean, not necessarily new, but, that had been, whether they were brand new or had been previously proposed that there wasn't funding for.
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
Well, what else did they consider? When they were considering this $100,000 for facade easements, were they considering maybe we could spend $100,000 on something else?
Those were the only two that we had brought to the CIP committee. So there were no other projects considered for 2007 besides what you see on this list today.
If I could just follow up on Pat's question, maybe a better way to put this would be, if there are projects that worthy projects that the CIP committee simply could not include in their 07 to 011 CIP, do they go back and look at some of those? When you get an extra $500,000, do you go back and say, here's a project we couldn't fund?
And that's what I tried to answer earlier, that yes, we are intending to go through that process February, March of 2008 to look at, is there a need to either bring a project back onto the list or to add to an existing project that needs additional funding. The CIP committee does that every February, March, and then in the fall time as we're doing now. So yes, we would be undertaking that process early next year.
So, Mike, when you bring them a project like this, $100,000 for the facade easement and the $50,000 for visual arts, what are they really deciding?
They're deciding.
You're telling them that we've got the money to pay for this, and here are two projects we'd like you to do. What are they deciding?
They're making a recommendation to the City Council to add these projects for 07. And then next spring, when we do it again, they'll be making a recommendation to the City Council on whether to change projects for 2008.
So they had no opportunity to weigh that they're, back when we originally did our list, we had a higher priority. They didn't have that option to consider that. They were just basically whether or not they were going to recommend these two projects or not.
Right. The CIP committee typically acts on requests that come from the different departments. So if they don't get a request, they're not going to initiate a project amendment. They're responding to requests by directors. And that's the way that the process has been set up to work.
Further questions, Bob?
I just had a comment in defense of the facade easement program. You know, we went from having money left over some years to having 9 applicants. Something is happening down there. Something's working down there. I don't know if it's all the facade easement program, but we're doing something right.
I think when we started that program, we were funding it at $300,000, and we weren't getting a lot of responses, and so we cut it back to $150, and now we're getting a lot of responses.
How many responses did we have this year? 9?
8?
8?
8 or 9.
8 people want to invest in downtown.
Vernon, then we can Vernon.
Mike, do we know how many easements are left in the city that will qualify?
We're estimating, just looking within the downtown area, that potentially there could be about another 19 projects. We don't know if all of those would come forward or if they actually would qualify, but we're just kind of looking at existing historic buildings downtown. And so there's still a number of them out there that potentially might want to take advantage of this program.
But in the scope of things, we know that these buildings are rare, and there's a finite number of them.
Yes.
And if we don't save them today, they will be gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my understanding of why this program has become more popular is because, you know, people are much more aware of it downtown, and also it's a nice way to help pay for your project that you're building downtown. So, but also I do have a question here about the $749,400 for the parks and recreation that they want this year.
I will wave on that one to somebody else.
I got you up. Don, I don't know if you heard, but I was just wondering about the $749,400.
Yes, I was listening. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. This is as a result of the Elman gift that we received from the 2 Elman family foundations, and it is completely funded through donations through those foundations, and this is to allow us to begin design and appropriate funds to initiate the design on the Elman Trailhead, and also ultimately would appropriate funds for the actual construction of that facility next year.
Other questions?
Do you know, and I know Les is standing back there, do we know the estimated completion date of this project?
I think I would prefer to defer to the developer on that one.
Les, do you want to come forward and answer that question, please?
My name is Les Kinstead. My address is 650 East 21st Street.
I was just curious when the estimated completion date of the project is.
We intend, our goal, our target is the 1st of November to have the residences on 7, 6, and 4, or excuse me, 7, 6, and 5, 7, 6, and 5 available for occupancy.
And ultimately, 100% completed?
Well, that'll happen. We should be in pretty good shape by the 1st of the year with most of the work. A lot of it will depend upon when people lease the lower floors, of course, and once they do that, then we do tenant fit and the improvements necessary. But I would think by the 1st of the year, right around there, we should be in pretty good shape, and then able, if someone wants to rent it right now, we can get them occupied by the 1st. If they don't rent until November or December, it'll take 2, 3, 4 months after that to build it out. So,
Mike, can we allocate the 2008 facade money for this project?
I don't believe we're allowed to do that according to the financial requirements. I don't think we can spend 2008 money now.
Can we allocate it, though? We can't spend it. Yeah, can we promise it?
We cannot encumber money for '08 until the first of the year.
I guess,
Further questions? We got a
Yeah.
motion here that's been made and seconded to amend.
yeah,
Further questions?
I have a question then of Gene. You said that we cannot encumber money for 2008 until January 1st. I've heard from a city employee that if people don't get their 2007 money spent by October 1st, that they have to use 2008 money. Is there anything to that or not?
I don't understand your question.
Well,
If they don't spend their
this
money.
city employee told me that, you know, for 2007 budget, you've got to have everything spent by October 1st. And anything that comes in after October 1st, then that's going to be encumbered on the 2008 budget.
I have no idea what you're referring to. That does not occur.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, because that's what I was told, and I'm glad this was a good opportunity to just ask, because I thought that was, questionable, but,
I would not want to explain that to our auditors.
okay.
Further questions on item number 12? We've got a motion been made and seconded, and the amendment hasn't been approved, so we're to the motion that's been made and seconded. Any further questions?
Are we on the main motion?
We're on the main motion as amended. So we're back, if we move it now,
With
what's
the
on
first
there,
amendment.
everything with the amendment will be approved.
With the first amendment.
Yep.
That's
That was
been
all
approved
So
already.
you got amendments been made and seconded. Pardon?
Done the library amendment.
Yeah. That was one we did, I think, yep.
The library item has been the
Yep.
amendment has been approved by the council. This is the
And
main
that
motion.
was
as
made by
amended.
Litz and seconded by Knutson. That passed 8-0, the amendment, and now we're to the main motion as amended on item 12. And there was a motion that failed, 7 no and 1 yes, so that's where we're at. Any further questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have an motion.
Okay.
Or an amendment to delete the $100,000 for the facade easement money.
Motion to delete the $100,000 for facade. Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded? Staggers, okay. Motion has been to delete the $100,000 for facade easement. Further comments on that motion? All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
No.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
No.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz. Do you
No.
pass?
No.
Okay. Staggers,
Yes.
Benega.
No.
It's 5 noes and 4.
That motion failed 5-3, so we're back to the main motion as amended. Further comments on the main motion as amended? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of passing item 12 as amended will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 12 has been approved 8-0 as amended. Item 13.
Item 13 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to fund the Drake Springs Pool election expense. City Council, $11,200.
Deborah Owens, City Clerk. Agenda item number 13 is a request to cover expenses incurred from the Drake Springs Pool election. The total costs of the election were approximately $22,000. However, the costs of the May 15th election are split between the school district and the City of Sioux Falls. This ordinance seeks to cover one half of those expenses at $11,200.
Questions of Deborah on item number 13. Others who wish to address the council on item 13. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Let's second it. Further comments on the motion to approve? See no further motion. Any comments? All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes. All members present voted. Item 13 has been approved 8-0. Item 14.
Item 14 is a first reading, an ordinance to authorize the issuance of bond anticipation notes for purposes of providing interim financing of street improvement projects.
Good evening, Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Tonight we have a short presentation, and also to speak to this item is Director of Finance Gene Rowenhorst and our bond counsel Sherry Rohert. Essentially what we want to bring to you tonight is how we would like to pay for the interim financing of the design and construction of collector streets prior to issuing a special assessment bond against the abutting property owners. In recent months, we've brought this concept to Fiscal Committee twice. Once was this evening to bring more details to it. Prior to that, there's been extensive talk with the Alternative Financing Committee, and then the outcomes, what came out of that was changes that were required in the engineering design standards and also executive orders. And so tonight, we're essentially here to say that with the cooperation of the local development community, they have agreed with us that the abutting property owners to a collector street would pay for the entire portion of their project. No longer will we participate in the over width maybe of a standard collector street, nor the over depth of the pavement. And so there was other details, but those are really two of the key ones that in some regards always had participation from the city. And so I do have a map. Next slide. We've got two colors here that are identified. These are the current petitioned projects, and essentially we have a petitioned basis. If an abutting property owner on a collector or an arterial wants their street improved, they go through the petition process through engineering. We've taken the arterial street projects off this map to only speak tonight to collector streets. There are 8 red streets. These are the ones that we would bring forward tonight for use of this this process. The estimated amount of construction for these 8 projects is $6.3 million, and the total assessable amount estimated at this point is about $5.8 million. And so the balance there is if we are improving a street across the drainage way that is owned by the City of Sioux Falls, the City of Sioux Falls has to participate in those costs. Also, if there are some non-qualifying utility improvements that are made, we would make those as well. And so essentially tonight, we will speak to you more with Gene Rowenhorst on the mechanics of a bond anticipation note, but the key thing here is we do have a backlog of petition projects that are encompassed with collectors and arterials. This would address the collector streets, and with that, I will let Gene take you through the mechanics of the bond anticipation note, and we'll be here to answer your questions.
Can I ask a quick question of Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Mark, did I understand you correct in saying with this new method here, we're actually going to be having the adjacent property owners paying more and the city less?
That's correct.
That's okay. And then, of course, my next question, I've asked this before, is from a philosophical position, how can we justify adjacent property owners paying for city streets? I mean, they belong to the city. They don't belong to the adjacent property owner. Now we're going to try to stick them with a higher bill.
Well, the key is benefiting the property, and that the benefit to that property is a street. And so, and with extensive work with the Alternative Financing Committee and development community, and also with the recommendation of IRAB, we're bringing this forward. So this is an accepted practice not only in the City of Sioux Falls, but across the country.
I guess just one final comment. You know, when the interstate highway system was built, we didn't have farmers and everybody that were adjacent to the interstate paying for it. It was the taxpayers of the United States paying for it. And that makes a lot of sense because this is a government highway. And that's the same way with these streets. These are government streets. They're not privately owned. Now, if they're privately owned, that's different. These are government-owned on government right-of-way. So, I mean, I wish that IRAB and maybe Public Works would maybe come up with a different system of financing rather than this.
Further questions? Anybody have?
Just-
Not, we'll move on. Bob James.
Just as a comment, it's the city ordinance on how we fund public streets, and until we change that ordinance, it will continue as we currently have it.
Yeah.
Let's move. We've been through this discussion quite a bit, so.
Well, yeah,
it's
I mean, we
phil-
have
it's
to start thinking a
philosophical
little
one,
bit
and you're gonna have to
differently
change.
here.
You're going to have to change an ordinance, so let's move on here.
Gene Roanhorst, Director of Finance. What we wanted to talk about was how we're actually going to fund this. The issue in working with collector streets and building them has been the funding from the sales tax, and a bond anticipation note will be part of the solution to getting funding for that. What a bond anticipation note is just exactly that. It's a note that's in anticipation of a bond being issued. So in this case, what will happen is we will issue some short-term notes, probably 18 months in maturity, that will be used to, that funds will be used to do the projects that Mark has laid out to you in the map. After the projects are all done, this bond anticipation note is then paid off by the issuance of a special assessment bond. And the special assessment bond will have a 5-7-year maturity, something of that nature. All of the expenses related to the bond anticipation note will be rolled into the final numbers that are assessed to the property. What this does for us is free up money in the second penny sales tax to be used for other worthy projects. And in the past, we have funded these assessments ourselves out of the second penny, that tied up cash. We've got some tied up in there now. I don't know how much is actually tied up in there. I should go check that out. But there is a respectable sum of money tied up in the form of special assessments in the CIP. And this will free up that money. It is anticipated that we will use this going forward. Let's move to the next slide. There's no election required. These are not considered debt, either the bond anticipation notes or the special assessment bonds. They are not considered debt for constitutional or South Dakota legislative rules. Next slide. Give you some sense. What we're doing here is not new. It is done widely across the state. Many communities use this. Examples, Spearfish did a $729,000 deal at a rate of 7%. Mitchell did one at $245,000 at a rate that didn't exceed 6%. We don't know what it really was. And Huron did $1.3 million. And these are done on a regular basis by other cities. So we're not trying to do anything new. We're not trying to do anything that's usual, innovative, or creative. This is all spelled out in South Dakota law. With that, I guess I will ask if there's any questions. Question, Carmen?
Yeah, Gene, how much is the city probably going to save here by doing it this new method, by getting more assessment from the adjacent property owner? You know, if we did it the traditional way, the city would have to pay more. So how much
I don't know that the city is going to save money on this transaction. What it is doing is freeing up money that is now tied up in assessments. If you went and did this project without using the bonds, it would tie up between $5 and $6 million of second penny sales tax money, and that's what we're trying to do, is free that sales tax money up.
To spend more, yes. But Mark said that the adjacent property owners would have to pay $5.8 million. How much would the adjacent property owners have to pay under our traditional way of doing it?
It's $5.8 million.
Well, there was testimony to the fact that this is going to be a bond issue that's going to, save the city money by having the adjacent property owners pay more.
No, the savings, I think maybe you should get Mark back up here, but the savings is coming from the construction, not in the financing.
Trying to address that question. Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Essentially, the way it was last year and in previous years, the city would participate in over width, and over depth, because collector streets are, arterial streets are at the mile grid, and then if you would bisect that and have a half-mile grid system, that is the collector streets. With talking with the development community, they certainly know the backlog of our arterial streets, and those are topics that we're currently talking about. They're the ones that also supported coming forward and saying they do support the collector street benefits the developments, and so they'll assume those costs. So the way we did it last year and up until the recent design changes, the city probably participated in that 12 to 15% range on a typical collector street, and that accounted for over width, oversized water main. If a water main on a collector street typically has to be 12-inch because for adequate fire flow, we've now changed that, reimbursing between the 8-inch and the 12-inch pipe. Now we will only reimburse if it is 12-inch and larger. Just many things that I assure you that we have the support of the development community through IRAB, and so
No, I'm sure you do have the support of the
this
development.
method, this bond anticipation note, is not going to. This is simply what used to happen is, and I'll just talk in round numbers. If we had $5 million in the development-driven streets capital project, then when we go through and rank the priority of our arterial and collector streets, there's a ranking that comes through there. And so if, say, one of the significant collector street projects was recommended for top priority, and it was, say, $1.5 million, but the revenue is already lined up from the adjacent property owners. And so essentially, instead of us taking that $1.5 million and going and building an arterial street, we were tying it up with the design and the construction of this collector street, and then by the time we would issue the special assessment bond, that's when our funding was opened up. So it's, again, this is collateralized by the land that it's benefiting. The revenue is already lined up by the adjacent property owners. The only difference that we're trying to accomplish here is so we can focus our development-driven dollars on the arterial streets and not share between the collectors and the arterials.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Not really, because I'm still wondering, you said typically it would be 12 to 15%. Under this new method, what percent will the city be contributing to the project?
Under the old standards of how the design standards were wrote, from the participation from the city on the professional fees and the elements of the street, we would normally see a participation, or what I would say a non-assessable amount of 12 to 15%.
Yes.
We've changed many of those policies in the last year, and so now this new method, this bond anticipation note, the only change is we're not going to tie up development-driven streets dollars. We're going to use short-term financing that we can gain at less carrying cost than a developer can get if he is going to finance the same improvement, and we're going to move them and get them built. They've been petitioned. These are property owners that have petitioned us to build these projects, and so this is a mechanism to essentially allow us to build them, but also focus on the arterial streets.
So do you think it might be 10% under the new method, or 8%? I mean, that's what I'm really trying to find out.
The difference is the 12 to 15% that is construction costs that the city in the past has paid and will no longer pay.
Right.
That does not change.
So it's going to be still 12 to 15%?
No, that is the difference.
Mr. Mayor.
And nothing else changes it.
Just as a point of clarification, I think Councilman Staggers says that A while ago, the city changed the policy for connectors and
Right.
locals, and the developers are paying the far majority of that now.
Right.
So under this proposal, the cost to the landowners, the additional cost is negligible. It's the cost of issuing the bonds, which I think we heard today was a couple $1,000s over $7 million worth or $5 million worth of bonds.
Over 5 to 7 years.
Over 5 to 7 years. So that additional cost is just a fraction. And I just would point out for the benefit of the council members that weren't there today that this recommendation passed or on a vote, a unanimous vote today in the fiscal committee on a due pass recommendation.
Let's move around for a minute. Vern had a question.
Gene, on the financial piece of it, to oversimplify it, what we're doing is taking the city out of the banking business to free up money to do more street projects, right?
That's exactly what you're doing. We're freeing up money that we can use elsewhere.
Instead of lending money.
Instead of being a lender, and we've been doing that at like 6%, and we do almost that good in our investments, but we'll be able to take that money out and use it.
So we should let private banking business do what government shouldn't do, right?
Kevin?
Gene, we also had a discussion earlier about historically, we've got examples here of other cities in South Dakota, and I'm sure all over the Midwest doing this, but we've actually done it too. 18 to 20 years ago, the city of Sioux Falls routinely did this type of financing for street projects, did we not?
They did it about 18 years ago is the last one that we can find. I don't know if I'd use the term routinely, but they were done. There was more than one transaction done. Well, you'd see it back 18 years ago, and then there's 4 or 5 spread over like a 5-year period, something like that.
Further questions on item number 14? Okay, let's move on to item 15.
Item 15 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the issuance of its sales tax revenue bonds in one or more series, authorizing the use of the proceeds thereof to pay the costs of acquiring land and buildings in the city as part of the city's urban revitalization program, pledging a portion of the sales and use tax proceeds of the city to the payment of said sales tax revenue bonds, fixing the terms of such sales tax revenue bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of one or more supplemental indentures between the city and the First National Bank in Sioux Falls, and authorizing the sale, execution, and delivery of such sales tax revenue bonds.
Again, I'm Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. Approximately a year ago from today, we presented to the City Council a proposed neighborhood conservation program. And this was a program identifying the area southwest of downtown between 9th and 16th Streets from Minnesota Avenue west to Coble Avenue as an area that we would like to focus initially our code enforcement resources. And we've been very successful over the last 12 months in working with property owners to improve the condition of property, and a lot of city departments have been involved in that, from Public Works to Health to Community Development to Planning and Building Services, the Attorney's Office, and also law enforcement. And Chief Barthel is here tonight, and I just want to, again, compliment all of his staff for the good work that they've been doing in that neighborhood over the last year. We've made a lot of strides in terms of our code enforcement activity, and I think things are actually starting to turn around in terms of the neighborhood attitude and the safety of the area. In the meantime, we had anticipated, as part of our conservation program, of looking at potential redevelopment within this neighborhood. And so we formed a committee that has been meeting for a number of months. And this is a committee of volunteers, including Councilmember Bob Litz, nonprofit representatives, persons that own property within the neighborhood, residences within the neighborhood, financial institutions. And we've identified a number of priorities of things that we could do to be more proactive within the neighborhood. As we looked at this redevelopment phase, we had identified some potential incentives, including things like tax income and financing, tax abatement, which the City Council has taken action on and established a tax abatement program for this neighborhood, as well as some of the others around downtown. We talked about tax credits, developer financing, and a mechanism that we could use to go in and acquire property that would be potentially used for redevelopment. As we've talked about that incentive, Val Cool with Citibank, now Citi, is a member of our planning committee. And through the efforts of her company, we now have a proposal that has been brought to us that would essentially allow the city to, by this ordinance, to establish a line of credit in the amount of up to $5 million that could be used for the acquisition of land and/or buildings within this neighborhood that we would target for future redevelopment. And I think it's a very exciting proposal that potentially has a lot of benefit not only to the neighborhood, but also to luring potential investors. As I've talked to local realtors and developers, one of the things that they're concerned about is buying property and having to go and make it available for redevelopment. This is a mechanism that we could use to do that and then solicit proposals from developers, much like we did on North Phillips Avenue. As far as the mechanics of how this funding source would be implemented, I'll let the financial people explain that in more detail. But as we discuss this today with the fiscal committee, there's some additional information that we've been asked to bring back for second reading, including some guidelines on how property would be acquired and how property would be redeveloped, looking at what guidelines we would include in terms of promoting development with affordable housing, and then under what conditions would potential sales tax funds have to be used under this program. So with that request, the fiscal committee also recommended that as we move forward with this, that we would defer the second reading to the September 4th City Council meeting. And I don't know if Gene or Val would like to make any comments, or the fiscal committee.
Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance. This is really a pretty straightforward transaction. For those of you who've been in business, this is essentially a revolving line of credit that is backed up by the second penny sales tax. The important thing that it gives to the city is flexibility. Within 48 to some time frame like 48 to 72 hours, Mike will be able to cut a check for a piece of land when it comes up and becomes available. And the real trick here is going to be opportunistic acquisitions. It's then envisioned that those pieces of land will be assembled into larger pieces and prepared for revitalization, rehab, I don't know if it would be in rehabilitation, but new construction, provisions for affordable housing and some small business. When it is done through an RFP like that, the land will be turned over back to a developer to develop something that fits in with plans that the city has. The rate is going to be a tax-exempt rate. It will be at LIBOR. For those of you, it's the London Interbank Offer Rate, which is a very common pricing tool. It'll be at that 30-day rate less some number. I don't know where 30-day LIBOR is at today, but it's going to be under 5%. So the pricing is right. It gives us a lot of flexibility. It'll be a 5-year deal with annual renewals. And if for whatever reason city would decide to not renew the program, there will be a trigger for a 2, 3, 4-year time frame that would automatically step into place to work out of the obligations. So like I say, it's something that's new and innovative on the part of city, that they did come up with this great idea, and I think it's a tool that we could use very effectively to really revitalize the area that Mike's working on. Are there questions?
Questions? Gene? Vernon?
Question for Mike. Mike, for the benefit of the audience and the rest of the council that wasn't at fiscal committee meeting, I think one of the most exciting things that I see for it is the affordable housing aspect. The things I hear from constituents about their concern for the redevelopment of that neighborhood is making sure that we create affordable housing. Could you address how that will be the goal and how that would happen?
Under the proposal that we would bring to you at second reading in terms of the guidelines, when we acquire parcels that we think we can assemble and make a legitimate redevelopment site available to a developer, we would anticipate putting out a request for proposals that would include guidelines of how we think the property should redevelop in terms of mixed use, if it would have retail, office, and then affordable housing component would have to be attached to that mixed-use development, so that the goal is to not only eliminate blighted properties, blighted structures, but also to reinvest into the neighborhood with a combination of commercial and affordable housing opportunities. And as we've been meeting with the committee and as we've been, from the very beginning when we assembled this process with the mayor's blessing, we felt that affordable housing was very critical to maintain within the neighborhood. And I know that we got some criticism from the very beginning that we were going to eventually just end up kicking all the affordable housing units out of this neighborhood. But there's been examples in other communities where they have not let that happen, that they have allowed new construction that does bring affordable housing opportunities. We're working right now with the Sioux Empire Housing Partnership within the neighborhood. We're working with some other nonprofits within the neighborhood to look at housing opportunities. So that would definitely be a very critical component of any redevelopment site that we would look at acquiring.
Also, just so that for the rest of the council members, while there's a lot to be determined yet on this program, the guidelines that Mike had referred to about how we're going to go about purchasing property, ultimately any sale of the property will have to be approved by the city council. So we'll know exactly the dollar amount that has been invested into it with the purchases, the accumulated interest, any other associated costs, and we'll also know what we're going to be selling that, and we'll be able to make our decision at that time. So the guidelines, the intent, I think, is to offer them flexibility on the purchasing to react to situations that come up sporadically and have to be opportunities, have very narrow windows of opportunity, but any sale will have to be approved by the city council.
Other questions, Karen?
Yeah, Mike, I'm very concerned we're getting involved in the real estate business here. I'm afraid we're going to buy high, sell low. I have those concerns. And is there a way you can alleviate my concerns? In other words, do we have any expertise within the planning department about real estate buying and selling and all of this?
Council Member Staggers, with all due respect, I'm not sure that I can ever address all of your concerns, but very honestly, we do have a real estate department. We have a committee, we have the city council, we have the fiscal committee. As I said today, I'm not going to go out and start buying land willy-nilly. There's going to be a very straightforward process that we look at, and the focus is on redevelopment and revitalization of this neighborhood, because from the very beginning, when we identified some of the problems within this neighborhood, we knew that there was going to be property that probably should be acquired, cleared out, and made available for redevelopment. And that's been our intent all along. So we're not going to walk into this without any kind of process or guidelines, and that's why Councilmember Costello has asked through the fiscal committee for us to bring to you some of those procedures for the second reading to look at, and that's our intent.
Mike, just for your own defense, why don't you remind all of us that what we paid for the Uptown and what we sold it for under your real estate transaction?
I don't remember the exact numbers. I should have those etched in my mind, but we sold it for a lot more than we paid for it. And again, that was, I don't think it was really a risk, but it was a long-term vision for redevelopment with Phillips to the Falls. We knew what could happen up in that area with the old railroad land. And the Neighborhood Conservation Program, when we bought that to you last summer of '06, Again, we said that code enforcement is just the first phase, but redevelopment is really the long-term goal for this neighborhood and bring some new investment, some stability, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. And I would just like to publicly thank the folks from city who have brought this to you and to us as a proposal.
And Mike, one thing that we talked about too that I mentioned in the meeting, there is a huge cost to us not redeveloping this area too in terms of crime, code enforcement hours, your planning, staff's time. If we added up how much money we spent last year on that area with lack of redevelopment, I think it'd be a frightening number.
And as I said, I think we've already started to turn around. I think the neighborhood attitude is a lot better than it was a year ago. Obviously there are still some issues in the neighborhood that we want to keep an eye on, but again, with the code enforcement process that will continue, and we have now hired a second housing inspector, thanks again to your support, we're just going to continue to make it a better place, a better neighborhood for the community.
Further questions on 15? Bob Jameson.
Mike, to develop that area is going to take a long-range plan to make sure it integrates with the neighborhood properly, and I assume that we're going to be developing that plan of what we would like to see overall and how that will fit up against the rest of the neighborhood?
Right. The neighborhood conservation program that we brought to you last year had some preliminary recommendations of redevelopment sites and what type of land uses would be appropriate within those sites. But yes, we would be developing more detail with our committee, and those properties that we would potentially acquire and then sell would have to be in compliance with that redevelopment plan.
Very good. Thank you.
Further questions on item 15? Thank you. If not, let's go back and let's take item number 14 and see if there's a motion to set the hearing date for item 14 only at this time for August 20th.
So moved, Jameson.
Jameson moved. Is there a second?
Costello.
Costello seconded. Okay, that's for item 14 for August 20th, second reading. All in favor of that motion? Vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson? Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. The hearing date for item 14 has been set for August 20th. Now let's move to item 15 and see if there's a motion. There was some discussion to set the hearing date for item 15 for September 4th. Is there a motion?
So moved, Litz.
Litz moved. Is there a second?
Second, Benninga.
Bennigan seconded. So that's basically, we'll have a substitute motion and to do it, but that'll be the motion to set the hearing date with the understanding the hearing date will be set for September 4th for item 15. So all in favor of the motion to set the hearing date for September 4th will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson? Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present vote the item 15. The hearing date has been set for September 4th. 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 16.
Item 16 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by setting forth an administrative procedure for the adoption, publication, and enforcement of rules by the Public Works Department regarding the city's utility service.
Good evening. Bob Capel, the Public Works Environmental Manager. The item before you this evening is a request to amend the existing ordinance section 41-5. I previously met with this council's land use subcommittee and your full council during an informational meeting to explain the benefits and needs for this amendment. We therefore would request your consideration of the proposed ordinance amendment.
Are there questions of Bob on item number 16? If not, is there a motion to set the hearing date for September 10th for item 16?
So moved, Jameson.
Second, Brown.
Jameson and Brown. Motion been made and seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to set the hearing date for September 10th for item 16, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 16, the hearing date has been set for September 10th, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 18.
Item 18 is a deferred action, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and Global Spectrum for the management of the convention center, along with authorizing the mayor to sign for a limited purpose the contract between Global Spectrum and Ovations Food Services to provide concessions and catering at the convention center.
Mr. Mayor. Yes. I would state for the council that also present at this time is Scott Kavanaugh, the convention center manager for Global Spectrum. We are here to answer any questions the council might have about the agreement. I think you've had 2 or 3 weeks now to study it, so if you have questions, please let us know.
Questions on item number 18? Vernon?
I don't know if Gary or Jean wants to answer this, but what we were told last week was that the subsidy would be roughly $650,000 next year, and that's without the $150,000 for the CVB. Top end, what Global Spectrum would get would be $144,000. So where does that gap, that $506,000, what does that go to?
Where's Gene?
I'll make an effort if I could, Mr. Mayor. That would go, again, remember that this is a total cost contract. The city would be paying all of the cost of the operation of the convention center. So the difference would be between those total costs and the projected revenues for 2008. It would include salaries for the staff at the convention center. It would include utilities, and it would also include some maintenance and upkeep costs. I can't be more specific than that without having the actual budget numbers in front of me.
Further questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to recall. Councilor Brown mentioned that next year the subsidy is really going to, when we include CVB, is going to be $800,000. And I'm trying to recall, we talked about this the last time, the projected deficits or subsidy in the budget was what, 400? Was it 400,000? Was it 500,000? Okay. So, Scott, can you tell us why we're getting a good deal?
I believe your subsidy, Scott Kavanaugh, General Manager for Global Spectrum at the Convention Center, Sioux Falls Convention Center. I believe the difference in the subsidy from 06, there's a number of things. We've talked about this at length as far as comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. We have 2 completely different contracts, 2 completely different management agreements. That's what we have. I do not know what your subsidy is going to be for 07. I'd be willing to bet it's going to be higher than $500,000 than it was in 06. So I think if you're looking for a difference of $300,000, you're going to see that it's going to be quite substantially. Let me rephrase that. The continued subsidy has been going up year after year. What we've showed, we came in and showed last week that the subsidy will stop, increase, and it will go down based on our projections. Again, we don't know what the subsidy actually was. $500,000 is what you wrote, the check you wrote at the end of the year, but there's also various other checks.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about, the check we finally end up writing. And, I mean, if we wrote a check for $500,000, it was $500,000. And
I think there were other finances that you were giving this center throughout the course of the year. But again, Gene,
Further questions? Not. Are there others that wish to address the council on item number 18? Anyone else? Is there council discussion or a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Let's move. Is there a second?
Second, Jameson.
Jameson seconded. Further comments?
Just one comment. Scott, we've talked about how we are in some ways having to take a leap of faith here. I certainly feel that tonight, but I will tell you, I've been impressed with what you've done in your short time at the convention center, and I'm pleased to see what you're doing in terms of customer service. So I'm hesitant, but I will take that leap of faith tonight.
I just want you to know we really are excited, and I'm excited about the team that we have. We've got a lot of energy. We've got a lot of great ideas. The people that are, we've got, just by way of information, we have 3 directors of sales from other facilities that will be here next Monday, and we're going to do a sales blitz. We're going to hit the streets. We're going out. So local business owners, be ready. We're coming to get your business. And so that's one of the benefits we bring. We're going to attack, and we're really excited about being here.
And we're going to hold you to that lower subsidy.
I appreciate that. You can do that.
Kevin? Just for the record, we're putting together, we're being asked to pass a resolution to authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement. How final is this agreement?
This is the agreement.
This is the final agreement, so there won't be any changes after this.
There will be no changes after this.
That's, well, let me put it to you this way. If there are any changes, will the council see any amendments to this agreement?
Yes, because the council approved this agreement, other than a spelling correction, if there were to be changes, they would come back to the council for approval.
Thank you.
Further?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Kermit.
I guess that it's important for people to be aware that really the city council, we don't really have much of a choice on this. The reason I say that is because there were 3 proposals submitted, and we heard about the proposal of Global Spectrum, and we were told this is a fantastic proposal, and in many ways it is a very, very good proposal. But it's been over the past several meetings that we've learned here about this subsidy situation, and we have nowhere to go. I mean, the other 2 were rejected. We've already got this agreement worked out. So this is the only game in town. And so I guess what we have to do in the future is the city council, as mentioned before, we have to just try to be very insistent about lowering this subsidy.
I think one thing
Each year in the future. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think one thing that you'll see from us is monthly financial reports. You'll see quarterly reporting on maintenance of your facility. We'll be able to do this as we go. You'll see projections throughout the course of the year. This is not going to be a super secret that I'm in some dark room somewhere just throwing numbers out at you. We're going to be very transparent. There's the incentive for us. We can only make $180,000. There's nothing else in it for us. We're here to make Sioux Falls profitable. We're trying to bring people in. That's what we're here for. That's how we're successful.
So, I mean, I'm wishing you all the best. I hope you make a lot of money. I hope you make a lot of money for the city, and I hope we get this subsidy eliminated.
That's my job.
Kevin?
I just need to respond to Councilor Stagger's comments. It's not the only game in town. There was an RFP. There were, I believe, 3 businesses. What I'm trying to get at is this. It's not the council's job, 8 of us, to sit and manage that convention center or hire somebody to manage that convention center. It is the administration's job. We need to have a certain amount of faith in the fact that they did their job and they're bringing the best proposal to us. Will we know that for certain? No, we never will. But we need to understand that they did their job and they're turning that over to us now.
And I think it's important to respond to Councilor Kavanaugh that it's incumbent upon the city council to get as good a deal as possible with any organization that we enter into a contract. I think, Scott, you realize that I wish we'd have gotten a better deal, at least when it came in regard to the subsidy situation. But, hey, you said you're going to lower this. You're going to make.
I'm sorry. It's much better than the deal you've had. So, much better.
Okay, we've got a motion made and seconded to approve. We've got a motion been made and seconded to approve item number 18. Is there further discussion? See no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. All members present voted. Item 18 has been approved 8-0. Item 19.
Item 19 is deferred action, a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to the Charter Revision Commission.
That's one we deferred with the understanding that we would change the title to Charter Revision Commission, and it has been completed. So it's just to put together the Charter Revision so we can go review some of the issues that we had in finance. Is there further questions on that one?
Would it be possible for the public to hear the names of the people that you are recommending for that commission?
You bet.
The appointed members to the Charter Revision Commission will have a term from August 2007 to June 30th, 2010, and the members are Tam Baker, Bill Early, Dick Gregerson, Pam Miller, and Lon Stroshine.
Further questions? Others wish to address council on number 19? None. Is there a motion to approve?
I move for approval. Knutson.
Knutson moves. Second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments? See no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve item 19, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 19 has been approved 8-0. Item 20.
Item 20 is a resolution vacating West 7th Street from North Dakota Avenue to North Main Avenue and the alley from north property line of West 7th Street 233 feet north.
Good evening, Chad Heavey, Office of Public Works, Engineering Division. The Public Parking Facilities has submitted a petition to vacate 7th Street from Dakota Avenue to Main Avenue and a portion of the alley north of the 7th Street right-of-way. This right-of-way is improved, and if vacated, a utility easement will be maintained. It is proposed that the vacated right-of-way will house a surface-level parking lot for use by the tenants of the 300 building, whose current lot will be the site of the library expansion. A public meeting was held on Friday, August 10th. The petitioner has complied with our street vacation policy and is present tonight. If you have any questions, the Engineering Division recommends approval.
Questions of Chad on item number 20? Others that wish to address the council on item number 20? Is there a motion by the council or questions by the council? A motion?
Move to approve, Litz.
Litz moves. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jameson seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 20, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 20 has been approved 8-0. Item 21.
Item 21 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, correcting a legal description on resolution number 3707, a resolution declaring the necessity to construct sidewalk on North Cliff Avenue, East Chambers Street, and East 34th Street North, and assessing the cost to each lot or tract of land benefiting thereby.
Several months ago, I brought forward a resolution of necessity to construct sidewalk on North Cliff Avenue. In the short time period after we completed our legal research for the resolution, and by the time it was approved by the City Council, one of the properties was replatted, and this resolution will correct that legal description so it can be filed at the county.
Questions of Chad on item 21?
Yeah, Chad, how many property owners involved with this assessment?
I don't have that information tonight. It was approved several months ago.
Yeah. And, well, what is the highest cost that a property owner will be paying for the sidewalk? Do you have that by any chance?
I guess I'm not. The resolution necessity has been passed. I'm just here talking about a legal description.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Further questions of Chad on item number 21? Others wish to address council on item 21? Is there a motion by the council to approve
I
item
move to
21?
approve item number 21.
Knutson moves. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Further comments on that?
Can I have, yeah, but Chad, it says here at the end, and assessing the cost to each lot or tract of land benefiting thereby. So we're just, this correction in the legal description, we're doing the assessment for this corrected lot. Is that right?
When I brought forward the resolution of necessity that would authorized the city to proceed with the installation of the sidewalk. One of the properties, let's just say it was 20, that property's legal description was listed incorrect because it had been replatted. So,
And so we're correcting
now all
the-
we're doing is correcting. We're not adding a property, we're not subtracting one,
Right.
we're
But
just
then
changing the description.
With this description change, then we will be assessing it too.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 21 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Benega?
Yes.
All members have voted. The vote is 7 yes, 1 no. Item 21 has been approved. Item 22.
Item 22 is a resolution amending the 2007-2011 capital program. And there are 2 proposed amendments for this item after it's been opened for discussion.
Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance. This is one of the situations we occasionally get into where we kind of get the cart in front of the horse. This is the actual amendment to the CIP plan. It ties back to item number 12, which was the supplemental appropriation act that you just that you passed in item number 12.
Questions of Gene on item 22? Is there others who wish to address the council on item 22? Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Kavanaugh moved. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconded. Further comments?
There's 2 amendments. The first amendment was a motion to amend the main motion. I don't have who it's from, I'm sorry. From Councilmember Litz, to amend capital improvement project number 004028, main library renovation and expansion, to increase the funding by adding $176,900 for land acquisition and $30,600 for an easement purchase in 2007. The additional $207,500 in funding will require an increase in appropriations that will be funded by bond funds.
Kavanaugh seconded. With that motion made, seconded. Further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. All members present have voted. 8-0. That motion has been approved. Next.
There is item 22, amendment 2, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers. There are 3 paragraphs here. I'll read each of them. The capital improvement program, to amend the capital improvement program by adding a new project, Hayward Addition Drainage Improvements in 2007. The estimated cost for design is $150,000 and will require an increase in appropriations that will be funded by the Sales Use Tax Fund. Capital Improvement Project number 112025, Downtown Historic Revitalization, by deleting the amendment to increase the amount of funding for the facade easements by $100,000 in 2007. The additional funding was to require an increase in appropriations that would be funded by the Sale Use Tax Fund.
Mr. Mayor, this issue's already been dealt with, so we could withdraw those amendments.
Okay. It's been noted that it withdrew. So we've got a motion that has been approved, and now we're back to the main motion as amended. Is there further discussion on item 22 as amended? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 22 as amended, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. All members present have voted. Item 22 has been approved as amended. Item 23.
Item 23 is a proposed resolution vacating North Markey Avenue from the south property line of Lot 1A, Track 4, Tickman Addition, to the south property line of Track 6, Markey Addition.
This portion of Markey Avenue is west of Interstate 29 and north of LodgeNet. This right-of-way is unimproved, and if vacated, a utility easement will be maintained. Williams Pipeline has an 80-foot pipeline easement in Markey Avenue that prohibits construction over this pipeline. The plat for Markey Avenue was filed in 1974, which was long after the pipeline was installed. At the time of platting, this area was platted as public right-of-way. Since the street cannot be built in the pipeline easement, the petitioner is requesting that the right-of-way is vacated.
Questions of Chad on item 23? Others who wish to address the council on item number 23? Is there a motion to approve?
No, we're setting a data hearing. We're setting a data hearing.
Oh, we're
So
setting a
can
date.
do
Okay,
20
that's all we
can do
need.
24 now.
Just get that one right, we'll be all right here. Further questions of Chad on that one? Okay, let's go to 24.
Item 24 is a proposed resolution vacating West 34th Street from South Prairie Avenue to South Summit Avenue.
This portion of 34th Street is south of Augustana College, 1 block east of the Almond Center. The right-of-way is an improved urban section. A utility easement will be maintained. Our Savior's Lutheran Church proposes to revise the entrance to their church and to revise their parking lot. The church owns the property on the north side of 34th Street and all but one of the properties on the south side of 34th Street, and they are in the process of acquiring the remaining property south of 34th Street.
Questions of Chad on item 24? If not, is there a motion to set the hearing date for items 23 and 24 for September 10th? Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison second. All those in favor of approving September 10th as the second reading for items 23 and 24 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson? Yes. Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for September 10th for items 23, 24. Item 17.
Mr. Mayor, may I request a 5-minute recess before we handle the
You may
CIP?
do so, so we'll take a 5-minute recess here. Is that enough time?
What's that? thought she said something, but I was thinking something else, so. Oh, yeah, thanks a lot, Brenda, for your help on that. Actually, I think this is somebody else because I had a tear in mine, but yeah, I don't know who that belongs to.
You know, it used to be right with the nuts.
Are you the garbage collector
I
down
picked
there?
his trash up last week. John doesn't pay that. Is like your wife tell you the same thing too at home?
I ignore her too.
You ignore her too?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start throwing it your way. You get your socks in the laundry basket.
You know?
Okay, but here.
Socks are cheap.
Okay, yeah.
The city council meeting will resume in 13 seconds.
13.
See how they list?
Was that item we moved down?
It was 17, yeah. So, yeah,
What? What are you gonna
make a request to have
Chair may not rule in favor of you.
Huh?
I may not rule, I'll hear you. I might not. No, all right, ready? Call the council back to order here. So we're on item number 17. We referred that to the bottom of the calendar, so item 17.
Item 17 is deferred action, a proposed resolution to adopt the 2008-2012 capital program. And Mayor Munson, we have about 32 proposed amendments for me to read.
Okay.
But we have to have a motion and second to open the item for discussion.
Is there a motion to open up for discussion here?
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Kevin.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead, Gene.
This will be short. Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance. What this resolution is adopting the 2008 through 2012 CIP, $492 million. And with that, if there's any questions, I'm sure there will be some. We'll be available to walk you through anything we need to.
Questions of Gene? Vernon?
Gene, just one quick one for the sake of the audience. Do you want to spell out what we'd actually spend in 2008 in the capital improvement plan?
What we will spend in 2008?
What's proposed to be spent in 2008?
In 2008, the total capital improvement program will be $125.5 million.
Thank you.
Okay. Bob Jameson.
Gene, will the OSEP be part of the general budget
Yes.
approval?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Correction, we have a separate book for OSAP.
Okay, we've got, Tamara has the amendments that have been turned in and that we have before us tonight, so we'll ask her to read the amendment, and then after she reads the amendment, the maker of that amendment will make the motion, then we'll need a second, so we can have further discussions on that particular amendment that we have. So with that, we'll start, and I think everybody has them at their desks, the order that they're arranged in to go through. So, Tamara, you want to start?
Yes, sir. Item 17, Amendment 1, a motion to amend the main motion brought forward by Councilmember Staggers to amend by Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 187064, Drake Springs Swimming Pool Replacement, by decreasing funding by $1,205,226 from $4,700,000 to $3,494,774 in the year 2008. CIP page 77.
Is there a motion?
Second, let's.
Well, we got to get the first motion.
Oh, okay, I thought that was the motion.
I move.
Did you move it?
Yes, I move.
Okay, you moved. Now is there a second?
Second, let's.
Let's second it. Okay, go ahead.
Do we have to vote on each amendment?
You got to vote on this.
We got to vote on each one. Okay, so you're ready for me to read?
Go ahead.
Yes, I guess I would
Sorry.
encourage my colleagues to vote for this amendment. It's an amendment that Don Kearney, the Director of Parks, wanted me to submit. This is to get everything in line for the building of the outdoor pool at Drake Springs.
Okay, everybody understand that motion? Okay. Bob Jameson?
For the general public, they may want to know why we're reducing that funding. I think it might be worthy of an explanation.
Don Kearney, the Director of Parks and Recreation. This funding is essentially being reduced by the amount that we currently have in the 2007 CIP plan for Drake Springs Pool. And so ultimately what this does is it provides no more than $4.7 million for an outdoor pool at Drake, which is consistent with what the initiative called out.
Thank you.
Okay, further discussions on that amendment? If not, all in favor of approving that amendment, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes. All members present voted that amendment has been approved. Another, go to second amendment.
Item 17, second amendment, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Knutson to amend by Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 010869, windows on the north, south, west sides of the pavilion by moving $286,447 in the year 2010 and $295,082 in the year 2011, totaling $581,529 to the year 2008, CIP page 150.
Make that motion.
Yes, I would like to make
Is there
that
a second?
motion.
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Costello, for seconding that motion. Is that I have asked the staff to show you some photos just to remind you what the Washington, three sides of the Washington Pavilion look like right now with these windows that are not really technically boarded up, but they're really not fully utilized like this. And I'll speak quickly, I have quite a bit of information, but in all, on those three sides of the building, there are a total of 220 openings in which new windows would be installed if this proposal would pass. The windows are not original ones now. They were replaced in a government energy efficiency project in 1953. The money would come from the entertainment tax. The estimate for the 220 windows, the estimate was completed in 2005 by Pella Windows and Doors, and we believe the estimate is fairly accurate, and I'm hoping that it is. I know that the existing windows to be replaced are single pane steel frame sliding glass windows, and the Pella windows that would replace them if this were to pass are a wood frame window. And the steel frame sliders do leak considerably more than wood frame windows, and especially steel frame sliders that are 54 years old. At the time, the government thought that by decreasing the size of the window, they would automatically save on energy costs. Not only is this not the answer, but it isn't aesthetically pleasing or historically friendly either. Another piece of information that might interest you is that many historic rehabs done in the downtown Sioux Falls utilize the windows that I'm recommending, or the money that I'm recommending to be used for these Pella windows, not only because they can produce very accurate window replicas, but because they are energy efficient as well. We would be returning the original window openings to their historic state by filling the original opening with a window that will replicate those originally in the structure. And again, I could go on, but I think I have for 5 years, and I just think it's time. I only have 3 years left on the council, and I'd like for the next 3 years to look over there, and see windows on all three of the other sides of the pavilion. Thank you.
Further, Kermit?
Yes, I have some questions for Dee. Dee, you mentioned that you want these windows restored to the original state, historically speaking. What year is that? Because the pavilion is made up of many different buildings connected, and what year would this be?
I am sorry, I don't know the answer to that. However, know that there are people on the staff that at the pavilion and in the city planning office that are much smarter than I am.
Then I have another question. The individual who put the windows in called me about this, and he said the windows were put in 29 years ago. And I think you mentioned that you thought they were put in 1953 in the interest of energy conservation. Is that right?
That is the information I was given. And again, I'm sorry, Councilor Staggers, very respectfully, I am no expert on exactly what's there. I just think that the photos are worth millions of words, and really we just never would build a building downtown or in any part of our city, in my estimation, and do this to them. I mean, I'm sure it was a cost savings and so forth, and we're always struggling. Sometimes we make poor decisions on buildings and later have to pay lots more to do them correctly.
Yeah, I guess the reason I was wondering is because 1953, I don't think the government was particularly interested in energy conservation to put those windows in at that time. Now, later on, in the 70s and so forth, when we had the oil crisis, then we become more energy conscious. But once again, the individual that called me said he's been in for 29 years.
Pat, and then we'll come back to you, Bob.
You know, I would just like to point out that it's my understanding that this project has been moved around in the CIP backwards and forwards for a number of years, and this is one of our crown jewels, and the building is 10 years old and it needs to be completed. With that being said, a quick present value calculation of the some $19,000 in energy costs that would be saved by putting in these new windows, the present value of that comes up to, with some certain base assumptions, comes up to about $300,000. So more than half of the cost of the project would be savings in energy costs.
Bob Jamieson first. He was next.
I guess one question, it doesn't show anything being cut. Where is the $581,000 coming from? That, to me, is a question I think we need to have answered.
Gene Rowenhorst, Director of Finance. As you all are aware, this money comes out of the entertainment tax fund. And there have been some things that have occurred that we've gone back, and my staff has, and done an in-depth analysis of the entertainment tax fund and how it's been performing. And the best thing to look at, you see the section caption, and there's a lot of things in the entertainment tax fund. You see the section caption, the Washington Pavilion. A couple of things have occurred. First, in the you look at the operating fund, go to like 06 and 07. We were doing the tuck pointing in those years. In 08, the last of the tuck pointing will be wrapped up, and then in 09, the tuck pointing goes away. And that's been running about $300,000 a year for 3 years. So you've really got half of the money taken care of right there. Actually, all of the money was close to $600,000. You got pretty much all the money taken care of right there in the 2 years of tuck pointing. The other thing that has changed is how we have identified the reserves. For some reason, the cash for the debt service was coming out of sales tax, that's not for some reason that, but the reserves were being held in the entertainment tax in a bookkeeping entry. so it was artificially decreasing the amount of unobligated fund balance through that entry. We moved the reserves back over to sales tax where they belong, so now the cash is in line with the encumbrances and the reserves. That, you can see that dropping. It actually starts to happen up in 08. You see the first time where the sales tax under debt service drops from $2.1 million to $1.5 million, and then it continues to drop down. If you go down to the bottom, then the ending unreserved fund balance, you can see how it climbed up in 07 to over $3 million. That's when we made the entry. And if we go ahead and do the 666,000 with windows, you can see that we're going to bring that unobligated fund balance down to about $1.7 million. We want to keep that around about $1 million. If you see back in 04 and 04, actually, it was right at $1 million. 05 is a little over $1 million. And then when the move was made in 06 is when it spiked up. So that's where you've got the money to accelerate these windows into the current year.
Bob Litz. Okay, Bob Jameson, you did from the front.
We've been supplementing the debt service from the sales tax fund for some time. And it appears that that goes from 1.7 mil in 05 to 2.15 this year, 2.1 next year, or 2.1 this year, and then to 1.5 in 08.
Yes.
Now, as I remember, that part of that was to fund new displays, whatever you want to call it, within the Washington Pavilion.
The debt service that you're looking at up here in that section, that is the actual debt service for the bonds, that for the convention center and the pavilion. And we're not able to identify how much of this belongs to the pavilion and how much belongs to the to the pavilion. This is the overall bond issue, and frankly, we don't know. We've not been able to find historically actually where the cost numbers are that we could even break it down that way.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Litz.
I appreciate Councilor Jameson's historical knowledge on this issue, because I vaguely remember when this thing was being built. I do know about windows, though, as a builder, and if you bought a house up in Tut Hill and it's 30 years old, 35 years old, a lot of those houses are at the point where they need new windows. If Councilor Staggers is right, then the cost of even replacing what we have, which should be coming up as normal maintenance on a building, is going to be at least a quarter to a third of the cost of the new windows, if not close to the same. That's something that has not been brought up before. We're probably going to be doing these windows, even replacing the old ones at the same size as part of routine maintenance. When you throw that cost in there, I think it can considerably brings the number back down to a realistic figure.
Thank you. Further questions? Kevin?
Just a comment. I would urge the council to give some serious consideration to this. I don't have any problem with the windows, replacing the windows. Someday we'll have to do it, whether it's for energy efficiency reasons, aesthetics, or they just wear out. My concern is this. I, too, was around in 1993 when we voted on this, and I think the general perception from the public was that the entertainment tax would fund the operations. As you can see from the chart, and I wish the public could see this, there's no way that the entertainment tax has come near funding all of the operations in the debt service. If we have additional amounts in the entertainment tax, that's great that the entertainment tax unobligated balance has grown over the years, but that money should be used to pay down our debt. As of the end of May, we still owe $22.4 million on those bonds. And anything we do with that entertainment tax should go toward retiring that debt sooner rather than later. We still have that obligation through 2014, I believe. I would urge your no vote on this.
Okay.
Part of that debt service is also going for the convention center, though, too, and as Gene said, we can't divide out how much is going for the pavilion and the convention center. I liken it to my 77-year-old home. I, too, am trying to pay off that debt as quickly as I can, but I have 77-year-old windows in that house, and next year I'll be replacing them, not for aesthetics, but because it's the right thing to do on an old historic home, and also for the energy efficiency. So I encourage you to do the right thing for the building and for the energy savings and vote yes.
Further comments? Got a motion before us that's been made and seconded to put the windows in the CIP for 2008. Kermit?
Yes. I think it's important to deal a little bit with the history of the windows. It's been brought out this evening that actually we've been dealing with this windows issue for a number of years. This is not something new. The windows really started with Steve Matley when he was in charge of planning. He was very interested in having the windows restored for historic reasons. And so he kind of took the lead on that. And I remember early on the pavilion really, management didn't really get too much involved. But then later on, the pavilion management did get more involved in advocating the windows. And this time, instead of focusing on historic reasons for the windows, they began to talk about the energy conservation they could get with these new windows. I think that we've been told that we can save $19,000 in energy costs each year. Well, if we spend approximately $600,000 on these windows, we'll get a payback in about 30 years. Now, for most businesses, they would never think of anything like such a long payback. And also at the same time, the individual who called me about this, who put the windows in, said these windows are very insulated windows, provides good insulation. And so I think the question should be raised, will these new historic windows actually provide more insulation than these windows that we have right now? I think it's quite likely they would not. We should all question this long payback period here for these windows. It's like, I'll just make up an example here, paying $1 million for something and saving $10,000. That's not reasonable at all. And that's the same way with this. This is a very, very, very low priority for the city.
Okay, we've got a motion been made and seconded to
Mayor?
move the, Bob Jameson.
Just as a comment, the windows were identified in the original bid for the rehab of that building when it was proposed to be a pavilion. They were identified and put in the bid as an option, and the funding was not available at the time. We could not fund the total cost of everything. That was cut. There were some elevators cut. There were some other things that were cut, an escalator. Some of those things were removed from the original bid because it wasn't, we couldn't service it with the debt, with the money we had available from the entertainment taxes, and it's been proven, as Councilman Kavanaugh has pointed out, we've been funding, supplementing that debt service with the sales tax for some time. I have mixed emotions about the windows. I understand that they need to be replaced, and understand what Pat is saying about the value of money now versus what it'll be in 10 years or 5 years, whatever the case might be. We've already wasted at least 5 years of energy efficiency on those windows by delaying the project in the past. And I'm going to be supporting it only because I think we need to do it just for the building. The building deserves to have the windows updated and brought back to its original state.
Okay, further comments? I see no further comments. All in favor of the motion to move the windows to 2008 will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
No.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
No.
All members present have voted 5 yes and 3 no. That amendment has been approved. Next amendment.
Amendment 3, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Knutson to amend the Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 029069, exterior building doors replacement by moving $50,000 in the year 2011 to year 2008, CIP page 151.
Motion by
Yes,
Knutson, made motion.
I
Is
so
there a
moved.
second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Further comments on that motion?
Yes, the reason that we are interested in replacing the doors are, these are some of the reasons. The original doors were not replaced when the city remodeled the building in the 1990s. The energy efficiency would increase as the current doors are lacking insulation. The new doors will be insulated, of course. The proposed replacement doors were reviewed and approved for historic reasons by the Board of Historic Preservation. They will replicate those doors found in the structure originally. The replacement doors will be fitted with higher security mechanisms / components that will be located within the door panels. This will provide a more secure environment for not only the building in general, but its artwork and displays. The estimate to purchase and install the doors is $25,000. The estimate for the addition of security measures on the doors is $7,500 for a total of $32,500. Excuse me. This project consists of purchasing and installing with a security component 3 sets of new doors for all of the exterior doors on the north wing of the building. And again, I would just like to remind those present and the listening public that this beautiful structure belongs to us, the city of Sioux Falls.
Further comments on that motion?
Yeah, Dee, you said this money would be spent to replace the doors on the north side of the pavilion, is that right? How many doors are there? 2 or 4? Or?
Straight north side?
Well, I've walked in
Yeah.
that door many times, but I mean, I just think of one door on the north side, then I walk in.
I guess my concern is just how many doors there are, because I guess my impression, it was like maybe 2 and I don't know, it just seems so.
I'll change my answer to 3 doors, please.
3 doors.
I mean, I do it so routinely, I hadn't.
Oh, no, that's all right. I don't know, it just seems too extravagant to
I just assume it will get more extravagant the longer we wait to do it. I mean, seriously, and I mean that very respectfully, of course.
Yeah. I place these, in the category of the windows, really, as far as priorities.
Further comments on Knutson's amendment?
I think that I misspoke again. I think that I want to say 3 different sets of doors.
3 different sets.
So you're talking on the corners and then the one on the Palladino side, okay. Further questions of that amendment? See no further questions. All in favor of the Knutson amendment will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
No.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Benninga?
Yes.
All members present voted 6 yes, 2 no. That amendment has been approved. Next amendment, Amendment 4.
Amendment 4, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Knutson to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 034069, electronic sign replacement by moving $34,800 in the year 2012 to the year 2008, CIP page 154.
I would like to make that motion, but then I also like to move to amend that motion.
Okay, let's get a second.
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded.
Yeah.
Okay, now go ahead. You
Okay,
got
the
floor.
best news for probably some of my fellow councilors is that I'm trying to save some money here tonight. And in other words, that the Washington Pavilion people have recently received a new cost estimate on this sign. And anyway, that the new estimate for the replacing the LED sign is $15,000. So that is my amendment. 15
Okay.
instead of 34,800.
Is there a second? Second by Costello. Okay. Motion to amend has been to replace 34,800 with 15,000. Everybody understand it? Bob Jameson?
I think it might be of interest to the public to know what the payback would be on those by replacing that sign.
And I'm sorry, someone else will have to
Mr. Mayor?
help me on that.
I think under the calculations of the original cost, the payback was 4 years, so with the reduced cost, it'll be substantially less.
And then a little other information I'd like to share.
Okay, go ahead.
Some other reasons that we are interested in updating the current sign at the Washington Pavilion. The energy savings created by converting the sign to an LED sign, which means light emitting and diode, will have a 3 to 5 year payback. The project will also decrease maintenance costs. LED signage technologies were not available at the time the sign was first installed. The upgrade to LED signage would allow for a sharper message presentation. Thank you.
Okay, let's vote on it. We've got a motion that's been made by Knutson, second by Costello, to take the 34.8 down to 15,000. Let's vote on that motion to amend. Pardon? Everybody's okay with that then? Then we'll just take it all in one motion. If you approve it, you approve the 15,000 instead of the 34.8.
So is that a
We get ready to
substitute
vote.
motion then, or?
There's other questions now. Any other questions on the
Well,
motion?
then I'm going to have
amend? So is there any other?
I'm going to have a substitute motion then.
Sure you can.
Okay. I move to amend capital improvement plan project number 034069 electronic sign replacement by changing source of $15,000 from entertainment tax to other funds, gifts, in year 2012.
So your motion is to bring back 2012?
I'll tell you what, I'll go 2008, the same as D, but I'll have gifts as the source of.
You'll have what items?
Gifts, not tax money.
Gifts?
Gifts, yes.
Are you going to write a check tonight to help me? I was wondering if you were going to help me.
Well, I am, yes, I'm
So we got a motion by Staggers to substitute motion to
Yeah.
amend, and his motion is the 15,000 would have to be raised private.
Yes, right, that's
the
it,
question
yes.
right there. Okay. Is there a second to that motion? That motion dies for lack of a second, so we're back to the motion to amend, and if with that motion, then we would approve the capital plan to, for 15,000 for 2008 for the sign replacement. Everybody understand that? All in favor of that motion, then, we'll vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present voted. That motion has been approved. 7 yes, 1 no. Next amendment.
Amendment 5, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Benninga to amend capital improvement plan project number 021033, overlay and seal coating program asphalt streets by adding $1 million in sales use tax in the year 2008, CIP page 63.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second, let's.
Let's second it. Okay, go ahead.
This motion is frankly a philosophical issue with taking care of our existing streets before we work on development-driven streets. I requested from department heads where this $1 million might come from, and they recommended the issues that will follow up on this. If you look at the 5-year CIP program, 2008 is funded at $4.8 million. The following 4 years are each funded at $5.8 million. That additional $1 million will do 50 to 60 blocks of seal coating or overlay. This is about infrastructure balance. This is not about delaying development. Every year we have projects that don't get started on time that frankly are carried over or carried forward, and I believe strongly that we need to take care of our existing infrastructure before we move ahead with new development, and that's the reason for the amendment.
Further comments? Bob Jameson.
Question for Public Works. If the assessment bonds are approved, will that satisfy the needs of the development-driven projects?
No, it will not. It will at least address the collector streets, and then we will soon start to rank the 2008 arterial streets for priority.
Back to that special assessment bonds, there's no provision in that for anything other than streets, not for drainage way or BMP projects or anything?
We're not allowed to use that funding mechanism when it's for our own improvement.
Okay.
Only if we are intending to have someone else assume the debt, which would be the abutting property owners.
And then the $500,000 from the land acquisition right away, what effect will that have on projects that are on the books for 2008?
The effects, as you know, as we make safety and capacity improvements or new development projects is that we are constantly buying right-of-way to make those improvements, and the result may be that we're not able to make as many of those opportune purchases as we need to.
Thank you.
Further questions? Everybody understand the amendment? Okay, all in favor of that amendment? We'll vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
No.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. That amendment has been approved. Next amendment, Amendment 8.
Amendment 6 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Benninga to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 040088, Development-Driven Street Projects, by deleting $500,000 in sales use tax in the year 2008, CIP page 11.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second, let's.
Let's second it, okay. Further comments?
The only comment that I would make is it's self-explanatory. This is where we would look for half of the $1 million that we're going to use for seal coating and overlay on those 60 blocks.
Further questions of the maker, Bob Jameson?
Maybe this is for Gene. The sales tax fund that basically provides the funding for development-driven streets and/or for the next one coming up, the land acquisition and right-of-way, is there any expected fund balance in those funds that would fund these things in 2008?
At this point, we do not have any additional fund balance remaining. We've pretty much obligated everything.
So if we don't provide some funding for the overlay program that we just approved, what happens to, if these two are not done, what happens to the?
You run the risk of running into a negative balance.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing no further questions, all in favor of Benninga's amendment on the $500,000 for the development-driven streets, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
No.
Jameson?
No.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
That amendment has been approved. Go ahead.
Okay. Amendment 7 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Benninga to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 148014, right-of-way acquisition for Public Works, by deleting $500,000 in sales use tax in the year 2008, CIP page 14.
So move.
Second.
Second, let's.
Let's second. Okay, go ahead.
Again, this is the continuation of the original amendment. I believe that this is a higher priority, and this is one of the areas that I believe that we can use for funding resources.
Further questions on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of that amendment? We'll vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
No.
Jameson?
No.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
That one has been approved. Okay, let's keep going.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah. At this time, I'd like to make a request that I be able to read my own amendments.
That's ruled out of order. We'll continue on with the way we were doing.
Can I ask you why it's out of order? Because these are my amendments.
We had sent something out, I think it was about a month ago, that we asked everybody, and we had chosen to do it this way.
Did
And
we
the
have
chair-
a vote?
The chair has ruled, so
Did we have a vote on that?
the chair
I
has
don't
ruled.
remember.
Go ahead.
Amendment 8, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 164064, Greenway Fishing Access, by deleting $5,600 in the year 2009 and $116,000 in the year 2010, CIP page 117.
You made a motion?
Yeah, I move this amendment to save $121,600.
Point of order. Second? That
Okay.
motion dies for lack of second. Keep going.
Amendment 9 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 173064, Greenway Station Point at Paisley Park, by deleting $3,680 in the year 2009 and $49,680 in the year 2010.
You make the motion?
I move this
You make the
motion
motion?
to save
You make the motion?
$53,360.
Did you make the motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, is there a second? That dies for lack of a second. Go, keep going.
Amendment 10 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 185064, Ice and Recreation Center Replacement, by deleting $640,000 in the year 2011 and $362,500 in the year 2012. CIP, page 122.
Is there a motion?
This amendment will
Is there a
save
second? Is there a second?
$1,002,500.
Out of order. Second? Dies for lack of a second. Keep going.
Amendment 11 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 082064, Faywick Park Improvements, by deleting $100,000 for backdrop structure in the year 2009. CIP, page 101.
Is, make the motion in on this one now, too, then?
Yeah, move to save
Is there a second?
$100,000.
Second to that motion? That dies for lack of a second. Keep going.
Amendment 12 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 010869, windows on the north, south, west sides of the pavilion, by deleting $286,447 in the year 2010 and $295,082 in the year 2011. CIP, page 150.
Motion?
Move to save $581,529.
Second that motion? That motion dies for lack of a second. Keep going.
Amendment 13, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 029069, exterior building door replacement, by deleting $50,000 in the year 2011. CIP, page 151.
Is that a motion? No motion made. That dies for no motion. Keep going.
Amendment 14 is a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 034069, electronic sign replacement, by changing source of $34,800 from the entertainment tax to other funds, gifts, in the year 2012. CIP, page 154.
Motion? That dies for lack of a motion. Keep going.
A motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 112025, Downtown Historic Revitalization, by deleting $150,000 in each of the years 2008 through 2011 and $175,000 in the year 2012, totaling $775,000. CIP, page 57.
Is there a motion?
Move this motion.
Is there a second? That dies. Second. Second, okay. Costello seconded that. Go ahead then.
Yes, what we're trying to do here is to really eliminate a program, the historical facade program. This is a program that only a few people in Sioux Falls can take advantage of. And to take advantage of that, you have to have a building downtown. I think this is such a low priority for spending. In fact, it's a terrible example of spending. And I would hope that my colleagues would agree that this is a project that has benefited a small number of people in the past, and now it's time to get rid of it.
Further comments on that
Mr. Mayor,
motion?
I have a substitute motion.
Okay.
I would like to limit the facade easements to $25,000 per easement.
$25,000 per easement. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second. Second, Benninger.
Benninger seconded. Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I guess the reason I propose that is I think we saw an example earlier tonight where a project has been begun and is happening despite the fact that we disallowed their facade easement earlier. It's a valid project. It'll be a fantastic project for the city, but the fact of the matter was the project was going to happen irregardless of whether or not we gave them $100,000 for a facade easement. Along that lines, we know we have several historic buildings in downtown who are, or owners of buildings that are interested in the facade easement program, and by limiting the amount of funds per facade, we will be able to get to a larger number of facade easements. This money clearly is not an economic incentive. These are million-dollar investments, multi-million-dollar investments, and $75, $100, $150,000 is not going to make or break the decisions on whether or not these historical improvements go through. All of these buildings, I believe, are qualified for federal tax credits, which 20% of their improvements qualify. And on this particular example, I believe it was close to $1 million. You also take into effect the property tax abatement that they are also entitled to is worth, in this case, was close to $300,000. So the notion that $100,000 is going to make or break these projects, I just don't accept. This will allow more projects to get done at a quicker rate.
Okay. Kermit, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for the sponsor of this amendment. You said limited to $25,000 per project. Are you still wanting to keep these numbers in here, Pat, or
Yeah,
what?
I'm not proposing eliminating the $150,000.
Okay.
But limiting the facade easements themselves to a maximum of $25,000, where I believe right now they're $100,000.
So
It's up to $100,000.
So yours is kind of an add-on here, totaling, well, like in $175,000 in year 2012, totaling, and then totaling $775,000, and then limiting, your amendment then is an add-on here, limiting it to $25,000 per project? Is that
I don't
what your
think it has to
amendment
be
is?
an add-on, but I'm
Well, you
amicable
just said
either way.
$25,000 per project, so where's it going? I mean, I think that's what you want to do, isn't it?
No, it's a substitute.
So, but then you're limiting the $150,000.
No, I'm not. My substitute motion is simply to restrict the maximum payout for a facade easement to $25,000.
No one facade easement could be more than 25, what he's saying.
Sounds like an amendment to me, but
Go ahead with
it's
the
all right.
clarification here from the city attorney.
My understanding of the motion
Is a substitute.
is that it adds the additional qualifier to the language already in the amendment to limit the project payout to $25,000 per project.
So that's an amendment.
Yes.
That's the
It's
substitute,
amendment.
but it can't be 25,000 is where is that?
Okay.
Everybody understand that? Bob Jameson.
A question, and I would ask Eric, Erica, or Mike, one or the other. The restoration of a facade easement is far more expensive than it would be just to board it up or do whatever you can. But the restoration back to the original is much more expensive than it is to just cover it up or whatever you want to do with it. Any ideas of what changes in value that does create?
Erica Beck, City Planning Department. I don't have any really good, I guess, examples to give you other than I think it would be beneficial for you to speak with one of the property owners that's in the audience tonight. He's done several downtown rehab projects as well as he's worked on projects that are outside the downtown area, and I think that he could maybe provide you with some of those examples. But I'd also just like to remind the council that this is not a typical grant program. If it were $25,000, I think limiting to that would be realistic, but it's not. The city's actually getting something in return for that funding, and I think by telling property owners that you are limiting that amount to $25,000 probably wouldn't make this program as approachable as it is. There are different funding amounts that we have funded. We have 18 projects that have been a part of this program. Certainly not all of the projects have been applied for by the same property owner. I have sent out a number of tables and spreadsheets to the council indicating all 18 projects. There are a couple is all that have actually been applied for by the same applicant. And just because they're applied for by that applicant certainly doesn't mean that they're the person that actually owns that property. And we have a wide variety of projects as far as funding totals. We have projects that have totaled around $23,000. We have projects that have totaled $100,000. And that's all based upon the total value of the project overall, and then, of course, the facade improvements that they're doing. Some of the buildings are obviously larger than others, so of course there's going to be higher costs associated with improving the facades. The windows alone, as you can see with the Washington Pavilion, are not cheap to replace, let alone if you're trying to replicate historically what was there before, which we require that they do within this program. I would just encourage you to consider speaking with some of the people that we have in the audience tonight. And then we also have representatives from the Board of Historic Preservation, too, that can also attest to their support and reason behind supporting the program.
Historic buildings downtown are different than building a building on 41st Street. These are a finite few buildings that we have left in this community that we need to take care of, and we can do that by buying this easement so our future generations can enjoy them. Anytime you dig into a historic building, you never know what you're going to get into. I've lived in 2 old houses and can attest to that myself. And it's about more than just building or restoring these buildings. It's about promoting tourism in this city. We lost a ton of these buildings during urban renewal in the 1970s. We had a downtown that would look like Stillwater, Minnesota. Stillwater capitalizes on its buildings, its historic structures. We can do the same with the few that we have left. You know, over the weekend I was talking to a Salem farmer. Farmers are pretty conservative by nature. And this farmer told me, you know what, when I come to Sioux Falls, I like to go downtown. He knew about our facade easement program. He knew that we as a city are buying those easements to save them for future generations. And a conservative Salem farmer says, that's good work by your city council. Keep it up. I encourage you to support this. I encourage you to vote this amendment down and support the $150,000.
Further comments on the substitute motion to amend that we have before us? Everybody understand that? Go ahead.
I just want to know if that Salem farmer would be able to talk to the Argus leader tomorrow.
I can call and find out, but he might be in bed if he's a retired farmer.
Okay, we got a substitute motion to amend. Everybody understands the motion at $25,000 per project. Further comments? Seeing none?
Yeah,
Go
just to
ahead.
clarify, this, if this would pass, then that's it. We go on to the next one. Is that right?
Say what?
If this would pass, then we would just go on to the next motion, right?
Back to your main motion to amend.
It's a substitute motion, isn't it?
I think it's not.
If this substitute motion passes, then you're back to the main motion.
As amended.
Okay.
And then this would just add to the main motion that you have.
Okay,
before your-
so
Kermit would go to yours and Pat's main motion then. If this passes, if it doesn't pass, then we're back to the main motion. So you're going to vote twice.
Okay, we're going to vote.
I don't think so.
Just a point of order here.
Yes.
Okay, so if we limit it to $25,000 of facade easement, and then we vote on the main motion that deletes the funding, doesn't a substitute motion take the place of the motion? Isn't that the idea behind substitute?
The question is whether you want to substitute this motion for the main motion, and if the question is yes, you do.
Well, what would I have substituted it for?
No.
There were no other amendments.
It still takes 2 votes, because the first vote is whether you want to substitute, and the second vote is whether you want to pass.
Main motion, so it's just 2 votes. It's always that's what it always was in Pier Were there, Kermit. Okay, we're to the substitute motion. All in favor of the substitute motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmember Brown.
No.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
No.
Kavanaugh.
No.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
No.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
No.
That motion has failed, 7 no and 1 yes. So we're back to the main motion as presented by Councilmember Staggers and seconded by Councilmember Costello. Further comments on the main motion? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmembers Brown.
No.
Costello.
No.
Jameson.
No.
Kavanaugh.
No.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
No.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga.
No.
That motion has failed, so let's go to the next motion.
Amendment number 16 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project number 140075, Lewis and Clark Water Supply Connection, by deleting $250,000 in the year 2011 and $4,350,000 in the year 2012, CIP page 187.
I move this to save $4,600,000.
Is there a second? That motion dies for lack of a second. Next motion.
Amendment 17, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project number 177075, Land Acquisition, by changing the project title and description to Water Rights Acquisition, CIP page 170.
Motion to amend?
So moved.
Second?
Second for purposes of discussion.
Let's second it. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I think most of us on the council have read the article in the Argus Leader about the city having a lot of land. And many times the reason the land was purchased was to acquire, the right to get the water out. This amendment here, it says instead of acquiring land to get water, we acquire the water rights. And therefore, we should be saving a lot of money by not acquiring the land.
Okay, go ahead.
I seconded this because I was like a legal opinion about this wording from our attorney, if that's possible.
Let's have Kevin come forward. Go ahead.
I think the purpose of the motion would be to delete the ability to acquire real estate but allow acquisition of water rights. Technically, you can buy water rights separate and apart from real estate. That doesn't mean it's a practical matter. Frankly, it depends on how the land is marketed, and my experience would tell me that you'd pay exactly the same for the water rights as you would pay to purchase the real estate.
I guess I would say that, okay.
The purpose of this funding source is also to pay for customer acquisition with Minnehaha Community Water Corporation, and that does not involve water rights at all. The acquisition of water rights is a separate process through the state of South Dakota. So if we choose to try to acquire water rights, that goes through the state of South Dakota. This project is there for opportune acquisition, just like we did where Well 71 is at in northern Minnehaha County. The property owner did not want to sell the property without selling us the entire parcel. Yes, it had irrigation rights to it. We had to convert those irrigation rights through the state of South Dakota to drinking water rights. That is the purpose of this CIP project, and without it, we'd be without, right now, 2 million gallons of water per day. So on behalf of our department, we feel the language as it's stated is appropriate and serves our needs.
Thank you.
Okay, Kevin, can you clarify something? If we buy some land and we want to get water out of the land, we have to go to the state, is that right, to get permission to do that?
If there are water rights on the property, which, and I'll go back to Well 71, there were irrigation rights with the property.
Mm-hmm.
We had to approach the South Dakota Water Rights Commission to convert those to drinking water rights.
Mm-hmm.
It was the state of South Dakota's decision. We cannot just go out and buy water rights. In fact, we are limited within the Big Sioux Drainage Basin, the amount of water we can actually have, and our unit only goes up as far as Baltic. So we're pretty much done acquiring land unless it comes up for sale.
Well, I guess the only thing I'm asking is just don't acquire the land. If possible, just acquire the property rights and check with the state. That's all.
As I just stated, the last land acquisition we made, the owner said they would only sell if we bought the entire property, and that didn't include the purchase of the water rights at all. That was an entirely separate process.
I guess I'm thinking of future purchases, trying to negotiate.
Bob Litz.
Kevin, are we buying some of this land to get water to flow across it?
No. In fact, it is where we choose to, or where we would like to sink wells. And as far as only acquiring the water rights, I would argue that in some cases, we want to keep the property immediately around the well site so that someone doesn't come in after us and farm it or, overuse fertilizers or pesticides or, otherwise possibly pollute the aquifer where we just invested millions of dollars in a well.
Well, if I can just comment, I mean, that goes without saying. If you acquire water rights, you're going to try to have protection. You're going to try to make sure that people aren't going to pollute. I mean, that's part of the negotiation, part of coming up with the agreement. We don't have to buy all of this land. People buy mineral rights all the time, I mean, and work out these different situations. But apparently, we have not done this in the past, and I think we should try to do this in the future.
Okay, we have a motion that's been made and seconded. Everybody understand that about the water right acquisition? Okay, we will vote on that amendment that's been made and seconded. All in favor of the amendment will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Brown?
No.
Costello? Jameson?
No.
Kavanaugh?
No.
Knutson?
No.
Litz?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
No.
That motion fails. Next amendment.
Next amendment is Amendment 18, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to add a capital improvement plan project, replace city sidewalks adjacent to privately owned land with funding of $100,000 in each of the years 2008 to 2012 for a total project cost of $500,000.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Dies for lack of a second. Next amendment?
Amendment 19 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to add the other capital expenditures plan, 2 snow gates for $3,000 each in the year 2008.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 20, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 242072, sump pump collection systems by deleting $300,000 in each of the years 2008 to 2010, totaling $1,500,000, CIP page 158.
Motion?
So moved.
Okay, second? That dies for a lack of a second. Next.
Amendment 21 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 199064, Prairie Green Golf Course improvements by deleting $215,100 in the year 2011 and $1,344,300 in the year 2012, CIP page 131.
Is that a motion?
I move this to save over $1,500,000.
Second that motion? That motion dies.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Pardon?
I think it's disrespectful of the chair's ruling and also the entire city council to go against the rules that were set by this body by talking when the motion is not made.
If I could respond to that, Mr. Mayor.
I would make a motion to
wish that
dispense
we-
with all further amendments this evening.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second to that. There's been a motion that's been made to dispense of all the rest of them.
Yes, I
Brown
guess.
made a motion, and Kavanaugh seconded to dispense of all further amendments.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to speak to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that because, I'm the one person on the council that has a few amendments, and the rest of you don't, that you're not being respectful to me, to even allow me to read my amendments. I mean, I asked that. This is the first time ever I've been involved in a situation where I couldn't even read my own amendments. When I was in the State Senate in Pierre, did I have some clerk reading my amendments? No, I was reading my own amendments. In the past, here on the City Council for the past 5 years, I read my own amendments. But tonight we had this change, and I think it's unfortunate. I drew up these amendments, and we have to have somebody else doing this. And now we have an attempt here to, well, you're not going to hear the rest of my amendments. Are you concerned that the citizens are going to hear what some of the other possible savings are going to be? I mean, that's the only conclusion I can come up with. So I would encourage my fellow colleagues on the council not to vote for this motion. Let the people hear the rest of the amendments.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, Council Chair D. Knudsen went through the rules several times, and no one objected to those rules. Secondly, on the legislative floor, you're not allowed to speak to the motion. You may be able to read them in, but you weren't allowed to speak.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to do tonight.
I have the floor, Mr. Staggers. And when you read, that is not part of the motion. That is not part of the motion that was written.
That's not part of the motion you have.
He has the floor here. Just wait.
So my point is made that we all agreed to these rules. You didn't object to them when we were setting this up. It's disrespectful of the chair in this body to think that you can have treatment different than what all the other amendments were made.
I am getting different treatment, aren't I, with your proposed motion, that I cannot continue on. Now, that's the worst kind of treatment, not being able to continue with my amendments.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Just to clarify, Councilor Staggers has, over the years, repeatedly gone beyond the language of the motion which was put in front of us, without getting a second, without the permission to discuss this among the council. He has lobbied for, grandstanded, and explained and gone into excruciating detail about his motion that he never had a second for. It is against our parliamentary procedure. That's why the chair this year ruled that we will not have that anymore.
It's truly unfortunate that I have not been able to actually explain these. There is so little information on these motions. It's not that I over-explain, it's because I don't explain.
We have had these amendments for, I believe, about 2 weeks. I think most people on this council, I would dare say all of the councilors, know exactly what these motions are. We don't need to have them explained to us.
Can I ask you about one project, if you know all about these?
We got a motion. Just talk about the motion that's before us. That's where we're on to dispense of the remainder of the amendments. That's where we're at today, right now. So is there further discussion on the motion to dispense of the remaining amendments? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor to dispense of the further amendments will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
No.
Jamison,
No.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knudsen,
No.
Litz, Staggers,
No.
Benninga.
Okay, that motion fails, so we're back to Amendment 22.
If I could just thank my colleagues for voting down that motion, I certainly
And
appreciate that.
we are staying with the rules that we had established, that the amendment will be read by the clerk, and then the person that has made the amendment will make a motion to approve the amendment, and no speaking until the second of the amendment. So proceed.
Amendment 22, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 200064, Keene Golf Course Clubhouse Replacement, by deleting $23,200 in the year 2011 and $144,900 in the year 2012. CIP, page 132.
A motion?
I move to save a lot of money.
Okay, is there a second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 23, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 202064, Junior Football Complex, by deleting $388,900 in the year 2012. CIP, page 134.
So moved.
Okay, second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 24, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 196064, Explorer Community Center, by deleting $270,500 in the year 2012. CIP, page 108.
So moved.
Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 25, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 188064, East Side Youth Softball Complex by deleting $25,000 in the year 2011. CIP, page 127.
So moved.
Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 26, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 186064, Brandon District Park School Site Development by deleting $10,000 in the year 2011. CIP, page 126.
So moved.
Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 27, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 004064, Memorial Park at 26 in Sertoma by deleting $186,300 in the year 2009. CIP, page 116.
Mr. Mayor, on this one here, I don't think anybody knows what this deals with. It's not clear in the motion. Can I just say what it deals with?
Just a second. Council's made that, so I got to get a second from you. Or you got made a motion. I got to get a second so I can do. You made the motion, right?
Yeah.
But can I get a second for that?
Oh, okay, no second. Can I tell everybody what it is now?
No second.
It was to eliminate a...
We got to stay with what we said. I'm sorry, Councilmember.
Well, no.
Next amendment.
Amendment 28, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 003064, Great Bear Park Development by deleting $122,425,000 in the year 2008. CIP, page 91.
So moved.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
Amendment 29, a motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 189064, River Greenway Improvements by deleting $750,000 for pedestrian bridge in the year 2010. CIP, page 93.
So moved.
Second. That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 30, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 128064, Maintenance Headquarters Improvements by deleting $30,820 in the year 2009 and $416,070 in the year 2010. CIP, page 111.
Motion.
So moved.
Second. That dies for lack of a second.
Amendment 31, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 452099 by adding to the project justification that, quote, absolutely no city funds will be used on this project, end quote. CIP, page 13.
Motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second.
The last amendment, number 32, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend Capital Improvement Plan Project Number 243072, Hayward Addition Drainage Improvements by moving $80,000 in the year 2011 and $980,000 in the year 2012, totaling $1,060,000 to year 2008. CIP, page 167.
Is there a motion? That dies for lack of a motion.
Mr. Mayor, in conclusion, we're going to be going through the budget in September. Contrary to what Councilor Brown said, I never agreed to these stipulations at all. And I'm just hoping we don't do it this way when we do the general budget. If anybody has amendments, let them read their own amendments. I think that's just a very minimal thing we should be doing.
And I think, you could take that up with leadership and
Okay, I definitely will. I definitely will,
You do that
yes.
We'll talk, and I'll sit in the conversation with you.
Yes.
So we've got a motion that's been made and seconded to approve the capital improvements for 2008 to 2012, and we had, what do we have? How many amendments did we approve? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 amendments, I think, that everybody knows which ones they approved, right? So those amendments have been approved. And we've got a motion made, seconded to approve the capital program as amended. Further discussion? Not all in favor of that motion to approve as amended. We'll vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes. All members present voted. The capital program has been approved 8-0 as amended. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move, Knutson.
Second. It's Kavanaugh seconded. All in favor, vote Yes, those opposed, will vote no.
Council members Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh. Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes. We stand adjourned.